Yeah, for those of you that want to know what we're all about, it's like this, y'all. This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name.
Hello and welcome to another episode here at West Coast Dogman Project. I'm your host, Shane Michael Crisp, and I'm honored to have not just one, but two guests on tonight. Monster Radio's Ryan Tremblay, and from the North American Dogman Project, Mr. D.A. Roberts. Guys, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, brother.
Thank you. Ryan, how's your day been, brother?
It's been busy, man. I sat down and recorded with Ashley, who's actually in the chat now. Hi, Ashley.
Hi,
we
Ashley.
recorded an episode on the Gugwee, so
I'm about to watch that. When are you guys going to release it?
That'll be next Sunday. We have the Skunk Ape first, and then yeah.
Right on.
Yep. So next Sunday.
Awesome. DA, how are you doing today, brother?
Doing good.
Feeling better?
Yeah, it's one of those things. It always hurts. It's just whether or not it's at a tolerable level. And right now, it's at a pretty tolerable level. So I'm good.
Good to hear. So tonight's episode, we're going to talk about everything from Dogman to Gugwee to whatever cryptid you guys want to talk about. I need to open up my show a little bit more and not just keep it Dogman related. I mean, that was the intention behind it. But, I mean, maybe I'll have to, like, DA, I think you sent me a message and said, instead of having multiple pages,
having multiple pages is hard to keep up with.
Yeah. I mean, I barely can keep up with 3. And my Skinwalker one's the most popular one growing right now. So, but yeah, I might have to create a show and change it to West Coast, maybe Cryptid Society or something.
There you go. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I kind of like that title. That's pretty cool.
You came up with it, actually. You're the one that sent it to me.
Was it?
I think so.
I don't remember.
He is giving himself credit now. He's like, I really like the name I thought of.
I didn't remember I thought of it.
Hey, no, it sounded good. It sounds catchy. Maybe in the near future, this platform will change to that. So,
there you go.
Ryan, do you want to talk about your first Dogman encounter? I know people have heard about it. A few people have, but do you want to go just a brief description of it?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it took place right here where I'm living now in southern Arizona, and that was the gateway that really got me into the Dogman, dude. Mm-hmm. Before, I actually did not believe in Dogman at all. I thought it was all a fluke, a hoax, a bullcrap kind of thing. But yeah, I was at a friend's house. I was doing a nightly check-in because I was watching his house while I was on vacay. And lo and behold, dude, there was a Dogman in the backyard. And so that's what stepped me into this world. Now, here I am.
Wow. Now, yours was the hyena variant, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. What about you?
So, I mean, I was like thinking there's no hyenas in
Arizona.
Yeah,
my bad. I didn't mean to cut you off, brother.
No problem. No problem, dude. But yeah, I was
I'm just super excited. I'm like, hey, I got, DA and Ryan. So
that's cool, man. We got Brown Dwarf here too. What's up, Brown Dwarf?
Brown Dwarf, thank you for joining.
Go on, DA. Your turn.
I've been digging into Dogman for a good number of years, since before I even wrote the first Apex Predator novel. Heard about the Beast of LBL, and of course the Michigan Dogman, and the Beast of Bray Road, the Beast of Seven Chutes, which I think is actually a Gugwee, not a Dogman. But I'd heard about so many of these creatures, and I'd talked to people who had sightings, and I felt them to be credible enough that I really believed something was out there. Now, was it a werewolf, as the old tradition believed? Was it the Oolonga Dog Lala, the long dogs of Cherokee legend? I didn't know until back last July when Nick Valente and I were in LBL. We'd spent several days running around LBL. We were driving down some of the back roads, just moving really slow. And I had my phone in my hand, just like this, with the recorder app up, so I could just hit it and run. And I'm like watching the side of the road, and I look over, and I thought I saw something, but it didn't click. And I started to turn my head away and went, wait a minute. I turned and looked back, and there was this creature. It had to have been close to 7.5 feet tall. It wasn't huge like the big ones you hear, like the 9-10 feet tall stories. Yeah. This was slightly larger than an average human, probably I would say 7 to 7.5 feet tall. Just based on where it was on the tree, we went out to that actual spot, and it was just standing there with its hand against the tree, and it was just watching us go by. but it wasn't until it moved its head that it clicked what I was looking at, because it just looked like part of the shadows until I focused on it. Kind of like when you're deer hunting, a deer could stand still for an hour and you wouldn't see it, but the first time it twitches its ears, you're like, there it is. That's kind of what it was. When it just kind of turned its head slightly, like it was following our movement, I looked straight at it, and it realized that I was looking straight back at it, and we had that moment where I was looking at it, and I'm like smacking Nick in the arm off, get over there, it's over there. And he hit the brakes and turned and looked, and this thing, when it realized we had seen it, spun and took off for a ravine, which was about 30, 40 yards away, and it moved fast. It was completely black. And I remember when I told you this story the first time, Shane, you asked me if I saw a tail, and I couldn't remember. Well, I've been doing a lot of meditation where I'm trying to do lucid dreaming, and I've been able to recall more of the details. It did have a tail. It was, the legs were hawked like what they call it, digitigrade feet, completely black. Head and ears kind of like between a wolf and a German Shepherd, how the ears are up. And it covered that distance in like 3 or 4 strides, just gone. And by the time Nick got his H3 thrown into park and we got out, it was already down in that ravine. So we go out there. You could see the impressions in the leaf litter where it had gone at high rate of speed, and you could see where the leaves were kind of tamped down where it had been standing. But the leaf litter was probably 3 or 4 inches thick, so there was no tracks that we could see. Plus, it was dry as a bone. It hadn't rained, so there was no way we could cast a track. But you could tell where it had been, but it was long gone. And he's like, "You think I can make it down that ravine?" I'm like, "Not without rappelling equipment. I don't think you're going to get out of there." Yeah, I said, "Because I'm not going to be able to help pulling you back up, because my back, I've got my back issues." But he's like, "Well, I'm not following it." I'm like, "I don't recommend it." And it was broad daylight, and I got a good 10 to 12 second look at it. I mean, I definitely firmly saw what I saw, and Nick saw it for 3 or 4 seconds as it was starting to turn and take off. By the time I got his attention and pointed at it, it was already turning and bolting. So Nick got a pretty good look at it, but I got a long look at it when that moment when we locked eyes and it realized he's looking right back at me, and then it took off. But it was just that moment where, you hear that popping sound in your ears and the paradigm shifts, and you're like, son of a bitch, they're real.
Now, Dean, I was going to ask you, when it took off, I've been reading multiple reports and accounts that the Dogmen don't run in a straight line. They run in a zigzag. Did that one take off in a zigzag formation?
It was weird the way it ran. It turned and it kind of hunched forward, like a runner crouching to run off, but it didn't go down to all fours. But it kind of did a loping stride, like bound, down. And it went down the side of that ravine, and it was just gone. But it was broad daylight too, so I got a really good look at it.
Wow!
But the funny thing is I had the recording option up on my phone, and I never even thought of trying to record it till it was already long gone. I'm like, son of a! I should have had
$1 million video.
Yeah, I should have had it just running the whole time and went back and cropped out all the boring parts. But just like been panning around running, but I didn't think of that. And when I saw it, the last thing that went through my mind was filming it. I was just totally in shock. And Nick and I were just like, for like the next 4 or 5 hours, like, okay, well, let's see if we can find it again. And we drove every road in that area, and we never saw it again.
Oh, but hey, at least you got that sighting, though. That's all that matters. And with your meditation and stuff, you get more of a vivid image of it.
Yeah, I was able to recall more of the details using those lucid dreaming techniques.
Interesting.
And I'm starting to get better at that. My ultimate goal with the lucid dreaming is to actually access the Akashic records, where I can go back and review a lot of things that are locked away in deep memory that I can't recall.
Oh, your guest last night, she does that stuff, doesn't she?
Yeah, she gave me some good advice, and I tried it. She said try using those Tibetan chants, the little sound, the little bowls that they use, chimes. And I found a couple of good ones and listened to a few until I found the one I wanted. And then I put my noise canceling headphones and actually listened to it all night long, and had some pretty cool dreams tonight.
Oh, nice! Awesome.
It's weird how that works. How your mind can click on things like that. Mm-hmm. And with the Dogman sighting is now it's it's still fluid in my memory, but it's like I've got really clear snapshots in my head, like just at, like looking dead on. I got the clear snapshot, and as it turned, I got that clear image, and then as it was taking off, I've got that clear image. But the whole sequence took place in such a short amount of time. That thing was really booking.
So your Dogman looked more like it was more the, would you say, the Van Helsing, the way that you're describing it.
Yeah,
real soft,
completely black, not a ounce of other color on it. It just looked like deep shadow because it was under the tree canopy. It was all shadowy where it was at, and it wasn't until that darker shadow twitched and moved a little bit that I locked onto it, and then of course I could, it's like, again, I liken it to deer hunting. You can sit in that deer stand for hours, and until something moves, you don't even see it.
Yeah, that's very true.
Every deer I've ever gotten, the movement's what gave it away.
Yeah.
Twitch of the ear or the flex of the muscle.
Mm-hmm. I got a good 8-point buck one time because it heard something in his tail flagged. I'm like, there he is.
Just stood out, just that little flicker.
Yeah. All it took was him just twitching just right. I was like, got him.
He's going on the wall.
No, he went in the freezer.
Oh, even better. Ate some good venison, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, I was going to ask you about go back to your encounter. Now, did the Dogman seem aggressive towards you, or did it seem like it trying to put the fear of God in you? Was it like, would you say like that?
It seemed more curious than anything. I mean, there was a bluff charge to it, but there wasn't any like constant growling or anything like that. It just kind of stared at me, dude. So I think it was curious about me, like I was it.
And did it just take off, or did it dart off, or did you run?
It just slowly walked off as I was running away. Once it turned its back and it was a certain distance, man, I bolted. I went in front of my side of my friend's house. I was closing all the doors, closing all the windows, bolting all the doors. I wasn't messing around, bro. I didn't know what I had seen, so I was like, lock this door, lock this door, lock this door.
Now, what year did your encounter happen? Was it just recent in the last few years, or was it?
I'd say about 2 years now. It was in October, so yeah, we're nearing the 2-year anniversary now.
Wow.
So yeah.
So there seems like there's more and more sightings, and as the thing, yours was 2 years ago. DA's was last year. Hopefully, I'm getting one this year.
Yeah, Ashley and I were just talking about the increase in sightings too. I mean, it's people are moving further into the woods, and these things are coming closer to us. So
I don't necessarily think that it's so many more people are going out into the woods. I think to an extent, large predators, including mountain lions and bears, are starting to lose their fear of us.
Could be. Desperation too, though.
Where Springfield, the metropolitan area of Springfield's roughly 250,000, and there are people in the city limits of Springfield that have caught mountain lions on their Ring doorbell cameras.
Whoa!
Wow, that's too close for comfort.
Yes, it is.
Mountain lions can be dangerous, dude.
Especially if you've got small children. They can easily carry off a child that weighs 50, 60 pounds.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Easily. I know we had a black bear running down the Highway 65 out here in California the other day. Just during the broad daylight, just black bear going down the freeway. Cars passing by. Yeah, they're getting closer into the cities now.
Yeah.
We live in a city that's almost 400,000 people.
Black bear sightings in our area are common now. They didn't used to be. I mean, 25, 30 years ago, there were no black bears in Southwest Missouri. They hadn't been in this area in forever. And sometime around 98 or 99, Arkansas reintroduced them in northern Arkansas and like the Ozark National Forest and everything. And the population just took off. And a lot of them have come north. And now they're so populous in our area that they're actually talking about authorizing limited hunts.
Oh, wow. Well, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, same thing with elk. They reintroduced elk down in southeastern Missouri, down near a little town called Eminence, and the herds just took off. So they're talking about doing lotteries to have selected hunts on the elk, and they reintroduced them 20, 25 years ago, about the same time as the bears. So the populations have just exploded.
Wow.
Both a good and a bad thing, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I would sure hate to. Now, I've seen the damage a deer can do to a car. I'd sure hate to hit an elk.
Oh, boy. Oof.
Especially in my little car.
What kind of car you got, DA?
A little Nissan Rogue.
Hey, that's good on gas.
Oh,
with the
35 to 37 miles to the gallon.
Wow.
Not too bad.
In town, 28.
That's very good.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it.
Especially the gas prices out here. I mean, we're paying $6 a gallon.
They're coming down. The gas prices around here have come down a little bit. They were 460, 470, and now like when I got gas today, it was like 415, I think. So it's come down a little bit, but not much.
Yeah, it's definitely here. I think it went down. I think the cheapest I found was $5.79.
That's why I don't want to live on the coast. Either coast, the gas prices are way higher.
Oh yeah, my buddy in New York was texting me. He's like, "Hey, dude, I'm almost $7 a gallon." I was like, "We got you beat by $2." In Mendocino County, at a Chevron gas station was $9.79. So
I've heard it's like that up in Alaska too. Which you think with Prudhoe Bay in Alaska that gas prices would be low? Nope.
Sorry,
Kind of the exact opposite, really.
We got one of the biggest refineries here in California, and we're exporting it out. So it's like, what are we doing?
Insane. That's insane.
Yeah, 1 million barrels a day, roughly, just in my area alone. It's crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, no. Sorry to go off topic, you guys. I do that quite a bit.
We do it all the time, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah, same here.
I know.
The topic, it's more like guidelines, really.
Yeah, see, I hate going by guidelines or script. I'm just like, hey, just 2-3 buddies just hanging out, talking, and catching
just
up.
conversation, man.
Yeah. Well, you guys want to talk about the Beast of LBL? Or do you guys believe that the murders happen? That's something I've always been open-minded to.
I firmly believe they happened, and I think there's an active cover-up, and I'll tell you why. When I was in LBL, we were staying in a resort across the canal from LBL in Grand Rivers, and I tried to talk to several people in Grand Rivers about it, and most everybody either played dumb or didn't want to talk about it. Well, I spoke to a deputy, and I introduced myself, told him I was retired law enforcement, and he said, "There's nothing here about that. You need to drop it." And I said, I explained to him, I said, "I'm just researching for a book." And he looked at me and he goes, "My best advice for you is to drop it." And he walked off.
Oh,
man.
I was like, "Oh, it's a sensitive subject around here." And then I asked a guy in a bait shop, and he threw me out of his store.
Wow, it's just the locals just don't want to talk about it. It sounds like
it's weird. In Grand Rivers, nobody wanted to talk about it. When I got to Paducah, everybody I talked to had a story.
Oh,
they all were well aware of it. There was one guy I talked to at a barbecue place in Paducah that said that he'd been fishing on Kentucky Lake. It was right at dusk, and he was running with his trolling motor on his bass boat. And as he was rounding a bend and going into this little slough that went back into the woods, he said there was one just crouched down, like trying to catch fish. And when it realized he was there, it started coming out into the water toward him. I said, "What'd you do?" He goes, "Well, I fired off the big motor and got the hell out of there."
Hightail out.
He says, "I was fishing. I wasn't hunting. I wasn't going to shoot." He says, "I just fired up the big motor and made wake. I got out of there." I said, "Do you still fish on there?" He goes, "Not on that side of the lake."
Do you ever plan on take another trip out there again in the near future?
Yeah. We've got the Dogman conference that's going to be in Paris, Tennessee on August 13th, which is coming up really soon. I'm going to be one of the featured speakers there, and I'll be there with books and everything. And the plan is that a bunch of us try to go back into LBL because the conference is literally right outside LBL. So the plan is to try to go back into LBL, but I know I'm planning hopefully a week this time, another shot at LBL either by myself or with Nick Valente. And then Nick and I are also in the process of trying to set up an expedition down to Taylor, Mississippi, where the siege at Lockett Ranch happened.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's going to be good.
Yeah,
I'm curious about that one.
Yeah, Nick's been really digging into it. He's like, "We have got to go down there." I'm like, "Yeah, there's animal attacks happen down there all the time." I mean, if you Google Taylor, Mississippi animal attacks, you'll find videos, YouTube videos and internet videos from news stations where even to this day animals are getting attacked down there.
Wow.
Like livestock and dogs and
wild dog attacks.
Yeah, wild dogs.
Right. Ryan, what's your thoughts on the LBL, brother?
I don't know if I really believe there were murderers, dude. I really don't. When Roger came forward, is that what his name was Roger?
Roger, yeah.
Okay, yeah. When he came forward, it just seemed like he added a lot of stuff to that. And the way that he attacked certain people that weren't believing him, man, it just made me feel like it was a made up thing on his part. Now, did something happen at LBL? Maybe. Was there a lot of murders though? I don't know. I'm having a hard time believing that. If I saw records or I spoke to people that were actually there during that time, I'd have an easier time believing it. I mean,
Jody Cook actually interviewed 2 of the highway patrolmen who were on scene.
Okay, well, I mean, like if I could read their stuff personally, like if I could meet them in person, it'd be better for me.
They both passed away.
Okay, well, if I could meet someone that had something to do with that, though, I'm the kind of guy that has to see your facial expressions, your body language.
I'm the same way. I as a cop, I studied interrogation techniques, and the guy you named, the witness that came forward, his story just didn't hold water.
Right. Well, with Roger, though, I mean, it seemed like it was a cash grab, So
I agree.
The way that things were being added, like when he said he had a scar on his arm somewhere from touching the hot axle, all you had to do to prove that was to show a picture of the scar.
Right.
And he refused to do that. So that made me think, well, that didn't happen. So what else?
Even if it did, it's only his word that he got it from that. I mean, he could have burned it on a muffler working in his garage.
Right. But still, it would have been something, though. Like, there would have been a picture of a scar. There would have been some kind of photo to go, well, maybe it did happen, but he wouldn't even show that.
Well, two primary things about his story just immediately jumped out at me. Number one, it's against the law completely to interrogate a minor without a guardian present. Right. So he was not questioned. There's no way that happened because it's against his constitutional rights. He cannot be questioned by authorities without representation, without his guardian or parent there.
Right.
And 2, you never ever take a witness back to the scene of the crime.
Yeah, no, I mean, even non-police are going to know that. They don't bring you back to the crime scene like that. You're going to traumatize the victim. So when he said that, I was like, oh, that stinks right there. That reeks of BS to me. But I mean, maybe something did happen though, but I would have to see, like I said, evidence for myself, Shane.
Tony Harris has a really good comment on that. You guys check that out.
What did Tony say?
Kumbo talked with me.
Yeah.
Well, see, I mean, that's all, second person stuff. I'm getting it down the chain. I'd be better off if I could speak to somebody that was there or lived there and knows about it, where I could see them face to face, watch their body language, listen to how they talk one-on-one, listen very carefully for any micro changes that might suggest lying. It's going to be like a detective work, Shane, when you're doing this. You really have to pay very close attention to how people act.
Yes, I'm the type of person, I'm like, you tell me you had a Dogman story, I'm going to believe you because that's just the type of person I am. I'm going to believe you, take you for your word,
Sure, but
I definitely need
a major event,
though.
If it's a major event like a murder, like at LBL, it's always best to really talk to them and see their body language, hear how they use their words, see if anything changes, ask them the same questions over and over, see if they alter it in any way.
Interesting. Okay, I'll remember that. Thank you.
Yeah. Also, a good indication, if you ask somebody a question, if they're thinking about it, they'll look up. If they're trying to think of something to cover, they generally look down and to the right.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you ask somebody point blank and they go, well, they look down, they're trying to come up with a lie.
Get their 5 minutes of fame kind of thing.
Pretty easy to catch.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm still only 8 months into doing this, and I'm learning so much and getting to pick your guys' brains. And, I'm going to be writing this stuff down afterwards. Like, look at the eyes.
I've talked to a lot of people that had firsthand Bigfoot encounters. I've interviewed a lot of people, including a few cops who don't want their names mentioned. But when you see hands start to tremble, when they start to tell you the story, or the goosebumps on their arms, these guys aren't making it up. They're reliving it.
Yeah, exactly.
You can see that terrified, haunted look on somebody. And you can't fake goose flesh and goosebumps or whatever you call them, or when somebody will shake and they're not even realizing they're doing it.
Or if they start to sweat too. When they start getting the beaded sweat on their forehead, that's something to look for too, because they're getting nervous. So
interesting. I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah, like I say, I'll definitely add this all to my ammo, and I've got people wanting to come on that want to talk about their interview. I believe them, just take them for their word. But
another great thing is if somebody tells you a story multiple times and they get emotional at the same point of the story every time. It's rehearsed.
Kind of like the whole Roger thing. I mean, I'm like, dude, he's a great creepypasta storyteller, but he can sell a book.
That's about it.
Yeah.
I mean, fiction is, and I'm the first one to tell you that there is a market for cryptid fiction. If he wanted to write a story where he was the survivor of the LBL attack and publish it, it would probably sell. If it's well written and well researched, it would probably sell even as fiction. But it just coming forward, trying to take credit. Really, all he did was just muddy up the waters for researchers.
Yeah,
the whole LBL thing. I know,
and he divided a lot of people too. There's still people that are pissed at each other over that.
Oh yeah,
really?
Yeah. He started a small war with that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I avoided it. I just stayed out of it.
Me too. I just kind of sidestepped it.
Yeah, I formulated my own opinions and mostly kept them to myself.
That's what you got to do. Yep.
Well, a few months ago, there was a guy on one of those Dogman community pages that was attacking Jody Cook, and I was like, okay, not a big deal. I'm just scrolling through. Well, then he starts discrediting his service as law enforcement and military, and I was like, whoa. And I shouldn't be trying to drag someone into it, but I tagged Jody. I was like, look at this guy, man. He's discrediting your service. I'm not cool with that. And then Jody told me towards the end, it's time for us to leave this page. And that's what we ended up doing. But it's like, man, if you don't believe someone's story, okay, but you're going to go and attack their military background and their law enforcement. I'm sorry, I'm not cool with that. When he's
I've left a number of pages over crap like that. I don't say anything. I don't even comment. I just leave group. I'm done.
Yeah.
Yep.
I totally understand. That's why I was like, okay, I'll take you for your word. I need to, being a part of the NADP, I shouldn't have done that, but I didn't realize. I'm still new.
You're fine.
You didn't cause any damage. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it was one of those popular ones that had 7,000, 8,000 people or 10,000. You lose one follower, it's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So if you guys want to move on from the Dogman, what you guys want to talk about the Gugwee?
Sure, absolutely.
We're always game for that.
Yeah. It's not our first conversation on the Gugwee either.
Yeah, no, that was a good episode. What was it, number 85 on your show, DA?
Yeah, we need to do it again because there's always more material.
Oh yeah.
Ryan, you've got a show coming up on the Gugwee, correct?
Yeah, it's going to be next Sunday. We just covered the Skunk Ape for this Sunday, but next Sunday will be the Gugwee and the Beast of Seven Shoots.
That's a great story. That is a great story, great one to cover. Yeah. And I do think that was a Gugwee, definitely.
Me too. I mean, when you actually look at the whole story, how the photographer didn't even set out to take wildlife photos.
Right.
He was just taking pictures of the woods, the national park, and in one photo, he caught this Gugwee holding what's either a dog or, like Ashley said, maybe a small fawn, a deer.
Yeah.
This thing's looking right up at him too. That's the creepy thing. The photographer didn't know it was there, but it knew he was there. It's looking right up at him while it's holding this animal. And you look at that and you're like, oh my God, dude, if that were me,
that's very typical of big predators.
Yeah.
Large predators are well aware of you long before you're aware of them. And that guy didn't even see it. It was kind of like when Steve and I recorded that video down in Joe Bald Recreation Area. We captured footage of what we believe is a dogman, but we didn't see it at the time, and we didn't even catch it in the footage till like a year and a half later.
Wow, it was really well hidden, huh?
Mm-hmm. It was, and on the video, even MK Davis took a look at the stills in the video, and he goes, "Yeah, there's definitely something there. I can't tell you with any degree of certainty what it is because it was shot on a cell phone. We went down there to shoot a promo video for one of my books for the first Lakeview Man.
Oh, nice.
And we went down to that old abandoned campground to shoot a promo video, and it was late at night, like it was dark." So we just went down there on a lark to shoot this video, just a couple-minute video to promote Lakeview Man. And we were joking about seeing Bigfoot or something down there, but we didn't go down there with the plans of trying to film anything. We were just shooting a video, and it was like a year and a half later. We were watching we showed the video of the Joe Bald area. We were talking about Lakeview Man on a podcast that I was on, and one of the guys that was watching the podcast, a guy named Thomas Whitney, goes, "Hey, something moved behind that tree." And I'm like, "Nah, I've watched this 1,000 times. I haven't seen anything." He goes, "No, I'm telling you, something moved behind that tree." And the tree was like 30 yards from us, maybe less, maybe 20. Wow. And so I had a couple of guys I know that do video analysis kind of tear into the video. And they're like, "Yeah, there's something there." I'm like, "No, there's not." And they sent me one of the stills. And I'm like, "Oh, oh crap, there is something there. And it was one of those moments where it felt like somebody dumped ice water down the back of my shirt. I'm like, holy crap, that thing was close. If it had wanted us, it could have got us.
2 strides.
I mean, I was armed, but I don't think I could have. You've heard of the 21-foot rule when it comes to law enforcement. We have something we refer to as the 21-foot rule. Mm-hmm. And we practiced this in the academy. We practiced it during defensive tactics with fake gun, fake knife. If somebody is within 21 feet of you and they have a knife and they come at you, you cannot draw fast enough to keep from getting stabbed. Your reaction time is just not fast enough because even at a dead sprint, they're going to get you. But if they're less than 21 feet and they come at you with a knife, you are not going to get the weapon unlatched and unholstered in time to stop them.
Right.
When we did the practicals, everybody that tried died, and I was the only one that survived because the instructor was not clear. He said, "Don't stand." He didn't say stand there and let him stab you. So as soon as they gave the go command, I just started backpedaling. And before he could get to me, I'd drawn, put like 4 airsoft rounds into him. And he's like, Roberts did exactly the right thing. And they're like, well, why didn't we think of that? I'm like, yeah, why didn't you think of that?
Right.
I'm not going to stand there and go, okay, stab me.
That's funny.
But the 21-foot rule basically shows that a normal human with normal speed can get to you before you can draw your weapon. And that thing was probably, if it was 20 yards is what, 60 feet? Mm-hmm. And considering how fast those things are, I don't think I could have drawn and fired in the amount of time it would have took it to close the distance. It was too close.
Too close for comfort.
Oh, definitely. And we didn't see it. We didn't even see it. My wife and Steve's wife were sitting in the van waiting for us, mm-hmm. and we didn't see it. We didn't hear it. We didn't know it was there. And when I went back and I've watched the video, there's several spots in the video where you can see eye shine, where something was close by. But we never got a clear image of anything out in the open. But there's a few frames of that footage where I'm using a 3500 lumen spotlight, the light I used to search cars as an officer, and I'm like shining the light around, and Steve's filming me, and as he pans the camera across, just before my light fully hits it, it's out from behind the tree, and as the light hits it, it just goes right back behind it. Wow, and you can see it plain as day.
Frames, huh?
Yeah, just a few frames. And the stills we've got from it, while they are grainy because it was shot on a cell phone, they're pretty clear. I mean, even grainy, you can see the shape of the head, you can see the nose, you can see the eyes, and in a couple of frames, you can see its hand on the tree. And we went back to the exact spot, to the exact tree, and I couldn't physically reach the spot where its head would have been. So its head had to have been around 9 feet off the ground.
Oh, wow.
And again, we did not see it until it was later spotted on the video.
I actually had those photos saved, DA, but I didn't put my second monitor up because I was rushing to get home from work to get everything set up. I have them saved. When you sent them to me a few weeks ago, and it's clearly, you see it pop its head out at the side. And
the video is on my YouTube channel. The original video is on the YouTube channel, and we have an analysis video up as well, where you can watch the entire video plus the video breakdown where we show the stills and everything, and I think it's pretty compelling. And again,
that's your page.
I can actually let me pull it up, and I will send you the link.
Yeah, if you could, I'd love to watch that.
There you go.
Give me just a second.
So Ryan, what's your thought on that Gugwee photo? I know it was debunked, but did you think that if you were to, I guess you could say, look at the photo without judging it right off the bat, would you have said that it looks more Gugwee or Dogman?
Are we talking the Beast of Seven Shoots or the one that's floating around now?
No, the one that's floating around right now, the one you posted
that
earlier.
one. You know what? To be honest with you, dude, I had a feeling it was fake because I had seen that image before, but I couldn't place where it was from. Like, I knew I had seen it, but I'm going, where did I see this from? What movie was this from? And then Gabriel Mero jumped in, and he was like, "Oh, it's from this," and I was like, "That, of course, how stupid of me, So it looked familiar to me, so automatically I knew it was fake, bro.
Yeah,
there's something about it, you can just tell it's not true, it's not authentic.
Yeah, and I know it looks like it's been altered too because there's certain parts of it that are darker, like where I guess you could say.
You know what it is, Shane? It's because the guy that took a photo, he took a photo of the TV show. What he did is he paused it while it was on his TV. Then he took a shot with his cell phone, and then he magnified it. That's what he did. That's why it looks so different and so distorted in the face. Yeah.
And I was listening to it on Monsters 911, and the guy was saying he shot it through a screen door, and I was like, whoa, that doesn't look like a Dogman to me.
You can see the TV lines though. If you look at some of the pictures, you can see the horizontal lines going. It's like, so wait a minute, where are these lines coming from? But yeah, I mean, thanks to Gabriel Mero, though, I was able to.
Thank you, Gabe, if you're listening, man. We appreciate that, because I know that had me confused. I was like, this doesn't look like a Dogman.
Right.
I'm just
These Woods Are Haunted. Season 2, episode 1.
Okay. I'll have to write that down and save it.
That's a good episode. I just put the link, the direct link to that breakdown analysis video in the private chat.
Oh,
and I posted it on YouTube, but that only went out to YouTube.
Okay, episode 1. All right. Yeah, no, I know. I figured it was fake, but it looked, because the guy's story just sounded so credible. Like he's like, I shot it through the screen door, and I mean,
right.
But like you said, even DA's told me you have to. What is it? Pretty much, you have to go in with an open mind that it is fake every single time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's too good, if it looks too good to be true, chances are it probably is.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing about modern technology when it comes to Photoshop or video shop. Any piece of footage, be it video or digital still, is going to be suspect. It is going to be. It's going to have to be taken with a grain of salt until you can actually have somebody like Thinker Thunker or MK Davis go into it and look and see if it's been layered in, if this is a piece of fake footage, because you can't accept anything like that at face value. And just like we were saying before the show, if it's posted on Facebook, you can't take that image and copy it from Facebook and analyze it, because Facebook compresses every image and every video you put up there, so you lose tons of quality. So you would need an original image or an original still to analyze it correctly, because what's on Facebook has been so badly compressed, you're not even going to be able to blow it up very big.
Yeah, definitely distorts the image for sure.
Well, it also distorts the image when you snap the shot off of a TV. So
it does. Well, I don't know. Lance is a big name in the Dogman and Bigfoot community too, and I mean, it sucks that that photo got sent to him, and it was a good episode just to listen to. But
I mean, this is why researchers gotta vet their witnesses. When you get a story, you really, really do have to look into it.
Well, as good as it's like that image you had that was a still taken from the Rougarou that Small Town Monsters did.
Yeah,
the documentary on the Rougarou, and that one's I think it's still making the rounds in some groups. But it's a direct still taken from the Rougarou documentary that Small Town Monsters did.
Yeah. Did you guys watch the new one that just came out last week?
I have not. I haven't had a chance to
watch it.
I've been wanting to. I just have not had a chance to watch it yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I'll definitely sit down and watch it.
Yeah, I know you can check it out on iTunes. I don't know if you guys have iPhones, but you can find it on Hulu, I guess, or other streaming platforms, Amazon Prime Video. I watched it and rented it for $4.99, and
on Prime?
Encounters, yeah. Well, no, not on
Prime.
Because
I haven't been able to find it on Prime.
Oh no! See, I found it on iTunes.
Oh, okay.
I rented it for $4.99, and it was. I sat there, ate dinner, and put the phone on the table, and I watched all. I think it's like an hour and a half.
It's not too bad. That's cool.
Yeah, it's actually a really good movie. It's probably one of the best, I guess you could say, documentaries. The guests on there, just one of them, the guy saw the bow hunter before he got eaten in the LBL. He said, I swear that's the guy. I saw his truck, and then because they were out hunting, and he saw the guy. And I don't want to give too much away, but
on a plus note, I just found it on Amazon Prime, so I know what I'm watching later tonight. It's up now, $4.99 to rent. So
there you go. Perfect.
There you go.
It's only $10 to buy it. I might just buy it so I can watch it again.
Yeah. Why not spend the extra $5?
Ashley Hilt says it just landed on Prime today. Well, that explains it, because I've been looking like every day for the last week or so. As I know when they announced it on Small Town Monsters, the banner had like all the little logos of where it's available, and it showed Amazon as being one of them. And I'm like, I'm not finding it. What am I looking at wrong here?
Am I typing it wrong or something?
Am I spelling this wrong? Pretty sure I know how to spell American and werewolves.
I would hope so.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we were on the topic of Gugwee still, and I wanted to ask you guys about the Beast of Seven Shoots. Now, I know, DA, you said that the guy didn't recognize, or Ryan, I think you said, the guy didn't even notice it. How long was the photo, from when it was taken to when they found it? How many years in between, or was it months? Or
No. What happened is he took that photo, and when he was developing all these photos, he noticed, hey, there's something right here. And he had no idea what it was, so he had it magnified, and that's when we got that image that you see in the Beast of Seven Shoots photo. So he did go back to photograph the place he got that photo from. That thing wasn't there.
Wow.
Yeah, and a lot of people have tried to say, oh, it's a tree stump, or it's this, or it's that. If it were a tree stump, you're going to see either the tree stump still there, or you're going to see the hole from where that tree stump was if somebody removed it. Nothing is disturbed. So something was there, Shane. Something was standing there and just moved on.
And like you said earlier, it looked like it's holding a fawn or a baby deer in its arm.
Holding somebody allegedly in the campground was missing a dog.
Yeah, that's what I was telling you.
A small white dog. Somebody, so that fits the description of what it had in its arm.
It has the elongated snout, like a baboon.
Very easily could have picked up the dog and went.
Yep. Or turn off the face, because I mean they're face eaters, so just there you go.
They are what they're named after.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I was going to ask you guys, have you seen any other legit photos, or is that the only one that's the most credible of a Gugwee?
No, there is one of Gugwee from someone's property. I forgot the woman's name that took it. Maybe you know the one I'm talking about, DA.
I know the picture, but I can't think of who had it.
Side profile of the Gugwee. She took it when it was running up a hill. So you get the photo as it's moving up this way.
Interesting.
But it's a really good one. I'll find it for you, Shane, and I'll send it to you. But that's another photo. So
because I've been trying to Google, and all I get are baboon-looking face drawings, or that's all I'm getting. Or that one
you know what? I'm going to tell you why. Actually, I said this in the show that I did with Ashley, because Gugwee was a name made by Brian Duke Sullivan. He actually Americanized the name Gugwee. If you look up Gugu, Gogo, right? It's
or
the Native
Cuckway.
American. Yeah, it's
Ukwe.
Right. It's the Micmac name for them.
Interesting.
So, or look up the bare-faced lady.
Or the bear man.
Yeah, the bear man too.
Okay.
I was talking to William Nighthawk, and he said the Lakota referred to it as the bear man.
Yeah. Yep. Wow. That's what I was telling Ashley earlier too, is because they have the almost bear-like snout. It's not as prolonged, but they don't have any ears on the side. So.
Well, he said the reason they called it the bear man is because it had the snout. And he said what they refer to as what they call Bigfoot, the Shiyetanka, don't have the snout. So he said they just referred to it as the bear man.
Yep, the big brother.
Wow. So the Gugwee's name was actually Americanized, would you say?
Yeah, Brian Duke Sullivan needed a name that was more, I guess, easily associated with things, so he created the name Gugwee. But what he did is he took the Micmac name and just kind of mixed it up a little bit.
Oh, okay. Now, what about the cousin, the Genosqua? Am I saying that right?
The Genosqua.
Genosqua. Okay.
Yeah.
The Genosqua that one really creeps me out, and I think that's probably the one that they refer to as the hairy man in Alaska, because it's extremely aggressive. And if you look at the incident at Port Chatham, they would find body parts floating in the bay of hunters that went up in the woods. I think the far more aggressive versions that you get up north are probably the Genosqua. And the reason I think that is I liken it to like bears. Like down here at our level in the United States, as I'm in the central United States in Missouri, but down here and even farther south, black bears are fairly common. And they're not extremely aggressive. They will eat meat. They're omnivorous. They'll eat just about anything. But you don't often see them actually actively hunting. They'll eat roadkill. They'll eat carrion. Or if they find an animal that's wounded, they're opportunistic. But they eat a lot of berries and roots and herbs. So they're very, very focused on their diet, and they're not generally exceedingly aggressive. Get a little farther north into the colder climates up in the mountains of the Rockies, you start running into grizzly bears. And these things are far more aggressive. You do get stories here in the lower 48 of grizzlies mauling people or mauling livestock. Get up into the Alaskan range. The Alaskan Kodiaks and the Alaskan coastal brown bears are extremely aggressive. And there are lots of accounts of them, them killing people.
Yep.
Farther north, you run into the polar bear, and they will actively hunt people.
Yep, they will.
Don't they have to set out like a mass curfew because the polar bears will be going streaming down, walking down the streets, and people have to lock the doors?
Well, the farther north you get, the colder the climate is, the more protein they need to maintain body mass. Even with bears, you see that they take on a lot more meat protein, a lot more heavy protein the farther north it gets. So, look at the polar bear. It's not a forager. It doesn't eat roots and berries. It eats meat. Seals, fish, the occasional slow Eskimo. I mean. They're meaty.
That makes sense. Like you said, your body's got to maintain all that to stay warm, so you're going to need more protein.
Right.
Compared to if you're in the lower 48, or like you said, in the south, and definitely.
I just want to address Brown Dwarf real quick. Brown, I'm not sure that Janoskwa and Gugwee are one and the same. I think they might be related, but the Gugwee and the Janoskwa, they have a different name because Janoskwa, the further up that you get to Alaska, they're known as Yahet Ari. That's the Native American name for them. So, and what that really means, Janoskwa, Yahet Ari, that means the stone giants. And these guys are known to actively roll in sap and pitch, and then they go to the river and they roll in the river rocks to create like an armor on their fur. So when the hunters of old would try to shoot at them with their arrows, the flint arrowheads would just break right off.
I think the Janoskwa might be responsible for the Nahanni Valley incidents. They find bodies missing their heads.
Yeah, see, Ashley, this is what we were talking about, dude. It's so funny. We were talking about this on our show too. So she actually doubts Nahanni Valley, but
great minds think alike. The funny thing is if you look at the story of the Nahanni Valley, how so many people have been found, basically they find the body and they don't find the heads. There's been a number of cases where that's happened, and the tribe that lived in that area was known as the Dene.
Yep.
You go much farther south, down in your neck of the woods, down in Superstition Mountains, there is a valley in the Superstitions where headless bodies have been found. And what do the Navajo call themselves? The Dene.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, a friend of mine wanted to go to the Superstition Mountains for a big group camping thing. I was like, man, you're out of your mind, dude. I'm not going there unarmed. No.
There ain't no way I'd go out there unarmed.
No,
and I don't think I'd walk the Mogollon unarmed either.
No, Superstition Mountains out here, man. There's so many horror stories around that place. It's terrifying, Shane. Wow. It's one of those things that, like, if you mention that to somebody everywhere is going to have a horror story. And each horror story is different. So as you go down the line, you get all these different horror stories about this one place.
One of the best stories I heard around the Superstition Mountains was a group that they believed were bringing drugs in from Mexico, fired on a Dogman, and a group of Dogmen basically just took them apart.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they found.
I've read on multiple accounts about that.
Border Patrol found the carnage.
Yep. Just killing the innocents or the people that were coming over, right? Wow. I've read or listened to multiple accounts with Border Patrol and Dogmen, and makes sense.
If they're going to hunt people, that's the place to do it. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about anybody coming across the border. I get it. I understand. I'm not going to get into the topic of border security. That's not what I'm aiming at. But if there's a group of people that's out in the middle of nowhere that's going to go missing and not get reported, that's it.
Yep. Easy prey.
Easy. Just pick them off left and right. That's literally
a group of people, 4 or 5 people crossing the border, and they run into a pack of Dogmen, nobody's ever going to know they're gone.
Yeah.
Yep. And with the heat out here too, man, you're trying to make it across the border, and my God, it was 105 today, dude.
It was 100 here.
Yeah, imagine crossing the desert in 105-degree weather, dude. You're going to be so weak. Any animal can pick you off like that.
And dehydration will kill you quick.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You can't be outside for more than 20 minutes when it's that hot, dude.
Oh yeah.
105 and you're out there for a half hour or more, and you're like, oh my God, you're ready to die, dude.
Yeah. I lived down in New Mexico for a while, and the weird thing by the time you realized you're thirsty, it was almost too late. I can remember lots of times the back of my shirt just being caked white with salt.
Yeah.
And the first, because we moved down there from here in Missouri, the first time that happened, I'm like, what the hell is that? And when, everybody's like, that's salt from dried sweat. I'm like, I didn't even realize I was sweating. They're like, that's why you drink a lot of water down here.
Yep. You don't even know you're sweating out your moisture, dude. It's just like, oh my goodness.
That's interesting. And like Ryan, like you said, you're out in the desert, so you're 20 minutes out there, you're totally caked and
Oh yeah.
you're breaking out in the sweat. But DA, you're out in Missouri, right? So the humidity is probably way worse out there compared to our dry heat out here on the west, right?
Humidity can get pretty bad, but the funny thing is today it was right at 100 degrees when I was out, but the humidity wasn't that bad. And I thought, well, it's not that bad. I'll roll my windows down, and it was like a blast furnace of the heat. It was just so dry, and I'm like, nope, air conditioner's going right back on.
Full blast.
Brian Dwarf asked if there was links to Ryan in my channel.
Let me see if I can share those.
I will put the link to mine in the private chat.
Okay.
I also posted
I'm still learning how to use StreamYard, you guys. I'm sorry. I'm kind of.
That's okay, Shane. You gotta learn as you grow, brother.
Yeah, definitely. And like I say, I appreciate you guys and everything you've helped me as a researcher, investigator, whatever you're at.
We're here.
Dude, I'm an open book. Anything I can do to help, I am 100% there.
Same here, man.
I appreciate that. And then I've reached out to you guys, so
I'm always happy to help.
Day. Yeah.
Pink Dahlia, hello.
But yeah, so what are your guys' thoughts on do you believe dogmen there's certain variants in certain parts of the country, or do you believe they're all over? Because a lot of the accounts I've heard with the Border Patrol and their sightings down there, they run into the hyena variant.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then the more north, like Pennsylvania, I guess you say like northeast, they get more of the German Shepherd look or the wolf looking heads. And then in the south, I've heard both variants, but more of the, what would you say, not the hyena, but the Doberman pincher look. Is there any ties to all that, or what's your theories on that?
I think it's like subspecies of Bigfoot. I think they just move around. I think they're nomadic. With the Dogmen, there's multiple different sightings, like you said, the different types of Dogmen, but they've been seen everywhere across, not only in the U.S. I've been seen in Canada. I've got a friend named Noel. No, I'm sorry. The channel's called Do It Noel's Way, but his name is Leon. He's a Dogman researcher in England. I know a guy that researches Dogman in Australia. They've been seen all over the place. So it's not just specifically linked to us, but some of the first recorded sightings of Dogman in the U.S. go back to the 1600s when French trappers were seeing them in the LBL area. Of course, it was known as the land between the rivers then.
Right.
Yeah. Why the name change? I was always curious about that.
In 1963, Kennedy authorized the construction of the two dams on the Kentucky River, and I cannot remember the name of the other river. But anyway, they dammed both of those rivers, and it created two massive lakes. And the area that was the land between the rivers largely flooded.
Okay.
There's a good chunk of it's underwater. There's still remnants of old homesteads, old family graveyards all over LBL, but the government basically evicted everybody off that land to create not only the national park, but when they created those two lakes. Because those two dams generate most of the hydroelectric power for Tennessee and Kentucky.
Interesting.
They generate a lot of power. But they basically came in and forced people off their land to construct those two lakes. So when it was just rivers, the place was still rich with Dogman sightings.
Oh, interesting. Yes, I didn't know that. They never explained why they changed the name. And what I've heard, I've done a little bit of listening in on the land between the lakes. And then I know you said you actually got a map and you went down there, the place that was bulldozed of the family. Yeah,
I bought a map there in LBL, and then I had someone sent me stills from a map from the 80s that was actually the map before they bulldozed a lot of those areas off. And the next time I go back, I think I'm going to be able to go right to that campsite where that happened because they bulldozed it off. They didn't want anybody in there.
Yeah. Now, Brian, what's your theory on it? Do you believe that if it did happen, do you believe the perfume and cologne was anything to do with it? I've heard that multiple times.
I think it could be. I really do. Because, you got to remember, cologne in the 80s was heavy on musk. And musk for a predatory animal is very triggering. That kicks in their predatory sense. And if the dad was wearing some kind of aftershave that had that or cologne, I could see that being a big part of it, sure.
I'm kind of on the fence about the whole cologne thing. I think possibly that could have been a contributing factor. But I think since they were one of the first people in that campground, there really wasn't. They were there early. There wasn't really anybody else in there. I think the sound of the children drew it in.
It could be, but I'd lean more towards the musk though, DA, because musk is very dangerous to wear around certain animals. In fact, when I went to my friend's zoo that he had kind of like his house was near a zoo, right? We couldn't wear cologne. If they said if you're walking out near the zoo, don't wear cologne, musk, or deodorant, because if you have anything in there, the predatory animals will want to get you. It's that dangerous. So if the dad was wearing it out in the wild and this dog man smelled it, then it is possible that it triggered something in that thing's mind and it made it, kill the whole family.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
like you don't think it was just a rogue dog man just wanting to go kill people? You think that something?
No, I think something set it off. I think something set it off.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's something definitely triggered it. Whether it's we'll never know, because one, there was no survivors of the incident.
Right.
We know that, and the fact that the animal itself is not going to tell us. The creature is not going to say, "Oh, this is why I did it." So there's really no way to know exactly what set the attack off. It could have been they could have been making too much noise. I know I know guys have had rocks thrown at them in camp because they were playing loud music.
Right. Well, high pitched noises from kids too, I guess, could actually do something, because the decibels would be higher for a dog man than they are for us. So maybe the high pitched noises from a kid kind of hurt its ears or something, and so it was defense.
What makes me think that it wasn't I'm not saying the musk cologne wasn't a contributing factor, but what leads me to think that it wasn't the primary objective is the fact that it fought its way inside the RV.
Right.
If it had simply been after the source of the musk, it would have killed him and been done.
Well, the thing is, though, DA, with the musk, though, it's going to be in the air. The scent molecules are going to travel. And musk from the 80s, though, that was made directly from animals. And that was actually
the strongest concentration would have been on the man. It would have been able to identify him as the source of it.
Right, but depending on where he went, like if he actually traveled into the camper or wherever he went, he's going to leave a scent trail. And anybody that passes through there is going to have those scent molecules on their own clothes.
Right.
So now more people are carrying that scent from that one person. So for this dog man, it's not just one person that's giving off that scent, it's everybody there.
True.
Oh, I see.
But that doesn't explain why the only one that was fed on was the little girl. It killed everybody else, but the only one it carried off and fed on was the little girl.
Because she was the smallest. I think she was the easiest prey, where all I had to do was grab her and run, where the other ones, the adults, they had to actually, dismantle. It had to hurt them.
Well, the thing about it is typical predator behavior. They won't go after a meal that's too much effort to get it. And by all accounts, every account I've read, the mother put up a hell of a fight. And the daughter was hiding in the back of the RV. So not only did it have to fight to get to her, then it had to go find her. So that point, it's not, this is the easiest one to carry, because at that point it was actively seeking her in particular. It could have easily carried off the boy. It could have carried off part of the mother, because they said she was dismembered. It could, there were other easy meal sources within reach, but it went after specifically the little girl and carried her off.
Right. Could have been something about maybe like perfume she was wearing or her shampoo or something.
Like you said, we'll never know, but it's all theories. Now, what with the little girl? Do you think that? I had a question I was just going to ask, and I just totally had a brain fart. But
that's okay.
I do that all the time.
Right. But now, do you think? What was I going to say? I had it on top of my head again, but you guys carry on. I'll rethink about it. I just was like, it was about the whole LBL thing, but maybe.
Were you going to ask about her being stuck in a tree?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There we go. Yeah.
How
high do you think she was for the blood to be dropping? Was it?
They say 30 feet.
Yeah,
30 feet or more up the tree.
Okay.
I've heard multiple versions of the LBL story, but the best telling that I found is the Cloaked Hedgehog. Her her YouTube channel. She does the best telling, and she gives into a lot of detail. Some of the smaller details that are completely left out of other tellings of the story. So I find her not only to be the most credible, but it also, the details she drops fall directly in line with the version of the story I heard from Jody, and he interviewed witnesses.
Yeah, Jody's been on a few interviews talking about the LBL and really good, credible stuff. Now the next topic I wanted to ask you guys about was missing 411s and cryptids. Do you think they're both in line a little bit, or do you think they're just crazy rogue people that live in the
I think
forest?
some are cryptids. I do think some of them are.
I can't say that there's any one source that's responsible for the number of missing people. But the thing about the missing 411 cases that you have to remember is David Paulides doesn't profile every case of missing people in national parks or in government land areas. He doesn't profile all of them. He only profiles the one that meets certain criteria.
Oh, okay.
And the ones that I find the most compelling, because in my law enforcement career, I've worked with dogs. I was not a dog handler. I have been in the field training and working with dog handlers. So I'm not don't anybody say you weren't a dog handler. I'm not claiming to have been a dog handler, but I know a bunch of guys who were. In fact, I've been the red man suit, and it's a lot of fun.
Oh man,
yeah, that's a long story. But the thing about it is I've worked with those dogs, and dogs that are trained to track, that run a track and will follow a fugitive or follow a missing child. Dogs that are trained to track live for the track. Those dogs cannot wait to get out of the vehicle and start a track. They love it. That's what they get excited for. That's what they get their rewards for. These dogs live for the track. And when they bring in tracking dogs and the dogs lay down and refuse to track, that's a problem, because that is not normal behavior. They are afraid of something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that they're not following the trail. It's that they refuse to follow it.
Now, do you think that's an apex predator or a cryptid or something?
That is
Why they
definitely
cower
some
down,
sort of apex predator.
Yep.
I have seen dogs who have not been trained to go after black bears.
Yeah.
But for dogs to specifically hunt like grizzly bears or other big, like mountain lions, those dogs have to be trained from the time they're a puppy to track and go after these animals, because it's not in their nature to generally attack these animals. Now, you will get some dogs that are just, full of piss and vinegar that will attack anything that gets near it. But for the most part, most dogs will not go after a large predator because their instincts tell them, hey, that thing's going to eat me. And but we do train dogs to go after mountain lions. We train dogs to go after bears. They've trained dogs to go after lions in Africa. The African Boer Bell, the African Mastiff was trained to hunt lions. The Caucasian Ovcharka in Russia was trained to hunt the bears in the Ural Mountains. So we do have dogs that have been specifically trained to hunt specific predators. We have no way to train a dog to hunt a cryptid because, one, they're not proven to exist, and two, we don't have, to train a coon dog, you need a coon pelt. You train that coon dog to follow the scent of that raccoon. So you've got to have something to train the dog to learn to follow it. And we don't have that. So these dogs will encounter that large of a predator, that unknown animal, and they're like, ooh, no, not following that.
No, back off. Yep. Retreat.
Hey, it's time to go to the truck. Look at the time.
Calling it a day.
Yep.
Now, I was going to ask you guys, I know we talked a little bit about the Gugwee, we talked a little bit about the Dogman. What about Sasquatch? The photo that's the one that's circulating is it Coyote Peterson? I might his name.
Boy.
The skull. I know obviously we've all talked about it. We all have our own belief. Why do you think he did that? Is it just to get his name out there, or
I think he did it as clickbait.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a way to get people to go to his channel.
Yeah,
I mean, now he had to dig in and say it was what if,
I get that was what if, but he didn't present it that way at first.
Right.
It was later in the video where he goes, well, this is a what if scenario. That is not the way you presented it at first. You basically put it up tonight this weekend on the show. We found a Bigfoot skull and we smuggled it into the United States. No, you didn't. You presented that as fact until you released the video, and it's only it's 9 minutes into the video when he says it's fake. So up to that point, he's still presenting it as a legit deal. So to me, that does so much damage to legitimate cryptozoological sources. It just makes fun of it. So now any video I see of his that shows, because I watched the video, I've watched 2 or 3 of his videos. So now anytime any of his videos pop up in my YouTube feed, I get that theme song from Scooby-Doo and Zombie Islands. There's no reason to hate. It's fake.
So he did. So there actually is a video about it. I didn't know. I've only saw the photo, and then I saw it circulating in the Sasquatch community, and I didn't know that. But he did go out and admit that it was fake.
Well, he did say it was a what if scenario, but the way he presented it to begin with, he said that he had to smuggle it in, that he couldn't keep the pictures up long because the government was on to him.
Oh,
So essentially he lied. He lied straight up to people knowing that it was BS.
oh, interesting. Okay,
He presented it like it was fact, so people would click on his channel. He'd get all kinds of hits. And before he actually posted the video, where he, like I said, like 9 minutes into the video, finally goes, "Well, this is just a what if scenario."
Right.
Before he even did that, Dr. Meldrum came out. Jeff Meldrum came out and released a statement. He's like, "This is an anatomical skeleton. He probably bought all." He said, "This is a gorilla," and he, yeah. So he presented it as real enough that Dr. Meldrum wanted to make a statement about it.
Yeah.
Wow.
That does so much to this field too, man. It's terrible.
Well, that's what I've noticed. It seems like when we're one step forward, we get somebody like Coyote's picture, and it just takes us 2 steps back. And it's like, well, I wonder why, closed-minded people don't believe. That's what, like me, a year ago, I wasn't a believer in Dogmen. I say roughly a year ago, because that's when I got into the field there. The topic of Dogmen, started researching it and thought it was just more creepypasta stories or clickbait, but then more and more sightings are happening nowadays. So, and then same with Sasquatch. I always believed that there's something out there.
Oh, there definitely is, man. I don't need any proof for Sasquatch, dude. As far as I'm concerned, I know they're out there. They're definitely out there.
I agree.
Yeah.
So
now, I was going to ask you, have you guys ever had an encounter with a Sasquatch?
I've had a couple of encounters that I believe were Sasquatch, but I have not had one of those classic Class A sightings where I actually saw it. I had something approach my deer stand in the darkness on 2 legs, and I was the only one on that particular section of land because it was my uncle's property. I thought it was him because there wasn't supposed to be anybody else on that land. But then I realized it was way too heavy to be him. And so I called out. I'm like, "Hey, who's back there?" And I heard like this big intake of breath, and he went and turned and walked off. And there was a big tree, so by the time I got out of the tree and around, it was gone, and it still wasn't daylight, so I didn't go after it. But and then another incident on the same land in the same deer stand, but I moved it to a different tree. I shot a 12-point buck, and when I went to track it, I found where it had bled out, but it was gone. And it had to have been something that picked it up and carried it off. Because at the time, this was mid 80s, there were no mountain lions in Missouri. There hadn't been a mountain lion sighting. And I'm sorry. Oops.
No, you're good. Don't censor the show.
Probably 50 years since a mountain lion had been seen.
Wow.
And like I said, black bears weren't reintroduced and didn't start appearing in Missouri and Southwest Missouri until the 2000s when they reintroduced them in Arkansas. So there were no bears and no mountain lions in the area, and there hasn't been a confirmed gray wolf sighting in Missouri in over 100 years. So right there, you've eliminated the big predators. Had it been coyotes, I've seen coyotes attack kills. One, you won't rarely see coyotes during the day. And 2, coyote kills destroy. They're not dragged off; it's eaten on the spot.
Yeah, they tear it up.
Yeah, there have been
like a pack of hyenas, right?
Yeah, it just destroyed the kill. And even if it had been a mountain lion, there would have been drag marks because a mountain lion's not going to chuck it over its shoulder and walk away. And I had a Motorola radio, and I called my uncle when I found the blood spot where obviously from the amount of blood, it bled out and died right there. I could find the impression, but it was in a creek bed, and I spiraled out for like 50 yards in every direction, and I couldn't find another single drop of blood. So I get on the radio and I tell my uncle, I said, "Hey, I think somebody's on your land. Somebody stole my kill." He's like, "Where are you at?" And I told him what part of the property. He goes, "I told you not to go into that section of the property." I said, "Yeah, but I was tracking my deer." He goes, for those who know me, my name is Doug. I go by DA for my writing. But he called me Douglas, which is rare. People don't generally call me Douglas. He said, "Douglas, there is nothing in that part of land that would have carried it off that you need to run into with a deer rifle. Get out of there."
Wow.
And I'm like, okay. And I knew that he'd had sightings on his land because he was the first person that I spoke to as a child that said, yes, they exist, and I've seen them on this land. He was full-blood Cherokee. He married my Aunt Violet. Like a second dad to me. I grew up in his house. I missed him dearly. When I lost him a few years ago, it was pretty tragic. I mean, I really took it pretty hard. But
for your loss.
If you read my books, the character White Bear is based on him. Jay Matoska is based on my uncle. That's him. That is literally.
Jay is?
Yeah, Jay is my uncle Buddy.
He's a total 100% badass.
Yeah.
He's the grandpa.
He
I
is.
just said I didn't know he was. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
that is my uncle. That's my tribute to my uncle Buddy.
That's
so
cool.
dude.
And
That is an honor.
he exists in all the book series. At some point, he shows up in all of them. So Jay Matoska is my uncle Buddy in a nutshell. And when I was about 7, maybe 8, I'd been asking all my family members if they had seen Bigfoot, and they all laughed at me. Like you're just goofy kid. No, Bigfoot's not real. And one day I was at his house, and everybody was running around because everybody back then everybody played outside, and he lived so far out in the country that if you got a channel clear, you were amazed. So that you didn't watch a lot of TV. So everybody was outside running around, and I went in the house to get a drink, and he was sitting in his rocking chair, and he called me over to him, and said there was nobody else in the house, and he picked me up and he put me in his lap, and he said, "You've been asking a lot about Bigfoot." I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm going to tell you something, and I want you always to remember this." I said, "What's that?" He goes, "They're real. I've seen them, and they're on this land."
Ooh.
And
Is that when you became a firm
I
believer?
became a firm believer because that man was not the kind of guy who would say something like that to a kid just to freak him out. He was as straight and narrow as you could possibly find. He didn't drink. He was a sniper in the Marine Corps. I mean,
You're talking about Jay right now. It's literally.
I went up to his house one time. I'll tell you this: how good a shot he was. There was about 100-yard stretch of open ground from his deck to the back where the shed was at. And I went up to his house one day, and he was up on the deck, and he had his rifle out, and he was shooting at a target that was out on the stretch of open ground. And I looked down at it, and I didn't see any like paper targets on or anything. I'm like, "What are you shooting at?" And he goes, "Come on, I'll show you." And he had a little paint can with a paintbrush in it. I said, "What's in that?" He goes, "Sugar and water." He was going out to that piece of blank wood and painting the wood with that sugar and water. And when flies would land on it, he would shoot the fly.
Whoa.
There were holes in that piece of wood with legs around them. And I am not making that up. I wish to God I could shoot that well. He was the best shot I have ever seen in my life. He was amazing, like surgical with a rifle in his hand.
Chris,
Wow.
Right?
He
That's
shot
awesome.
flies that landed on that piece of plywood at a range of about 75 yards.
Damn.
Wow. Yeah, he's definitely a sniper.
Yeah,
That's what you want to mess with. Holy
Yeah.
Yeah, he had
Wow.
when he passed away, he probably had 100 shooting trophies from competitions he won.
Very nice.
I love how
He only
Jay is related to
beating
that.
when he got older and his eyesight started failing.
Mhm.
Wow.
But even then, he always had a well-stocked freezer from things he'd hunted on his land.
No doubt.
And he would sell like squirrel pelts that he got. And to make sure he didn't damage the pelt, he would wait for the shot and shoot squirrels through the eye. I kid you not. He killed every squirrel he got through the eye.
Wow.
Just that good of a shot. Just unbelievable how good he was with a gun.
Mr. Badass. Dang.
Yes.
So when I write about him being a badass in the
Perfectly
books,
explained.
it's based on a real guy. He was just amazing.
That's very cool.
That is very.
And most of what I know about Native American legend, Native American wisdom, I learned from him.
Now,
Best
do you
source
have
right there.
native in you? Native blood?
Okay, this I'm kind of talking out of school.
Oh, okay. You don't have to explain if you.
No. It's kind of an interesting story. There was kind of a open question on whether or not after he divorced my aunt, if him and my mother got together a few times.
Oh.
So maybe
23andMe.
I thought about doing the DNA test to find out if I come back 50% Cherokee, I'll know for sure.
There you go.
William Nighthawk asked me if I had Cherokee blood. I'm like, why do you think that? He goes, it's just the structure. I'm like,
Wow. Interesting.
but I told my wife the other day, I'm like, I think maybe I'm going to get a DNA test.
You should.
Man. Well,
Maybe
now,
you're gonna
Brian, I was going to ask you, have you ever had a Sasquatch encounter?
Not yet. I am definitely hoping to have one very soon, though, man. It is like a dream come true to have a Sasquatch encounter. So maybe when I get out to Ohio, me and Ashley will go romping around and find a Bigfoot somewhere.
Are you planning on making a trip out to Ohio here in the next few months or weeks? Or
Oh, as soon as I can.
Oh, okay.
Get on out there and have some fun. So.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
And is there any Bigfoot sightings in Arizona? I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, we
wouldn't
have the
think that
Mogollon
just 'cause-
Monster.
Oh,
Mogollon
okay.
Monster here at the Mogollon Rim. So
which was the basis for my book, The Nightmare Hunter. I used
Yeah.
the Mogollon Rim stories.
Yeah.
Of course,
Interesting. Okay.
it's a work of fiction. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. It is a complete work of fiction, but the inspiration was the stories of the Mogollon Monster
yeah, they
and the
have a
people
lot
that
of
have gone
stories
missing
out
on the
here.
rim.
Yep, there's a lot of stories out here, Shane. I can tell you some later on.
Yeah,
Actually, really
I'd love to
interesting.
hear them.
So. But we
Like I
love the
said,
Bigfoot here in the town
do
that it's at. Oh yeah, they love it so much at the Dunkin' Donuts down there. They actually have a coffee made just for the Mogollon Monster.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's
I know you mentioned it when we were on an interview with William Nighthawk.
Yeah.
But I didn't really get the whole, Arizona. I think because it's a desert state pretty much, but I
they
just
call him
didn't
they call him the Yucca Man too.
the yucca. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
would just always think forest, dense, greenery, brush, and Sasquatch sitting right there.
We have that here though. We actually have that in Arizona. A lot of people picture the Looney Tunes desert in Arizona, but there are parts of Arizona that we actually have the thick forests.
Oh, I know Sholo has thick forest area, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Mostly
I've only been to
juniper and
Arizona
Joshua
twice.
pine.
Oh, Joshua Pine. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Well, I know we've talked a lot about any other cryptids you guys want to talk about. Mothman. What's your guys' theory on that?
Mothman is one of those ones I just
Can't put your finger on. It's just kind of, is it creepypasta or?
yeah. I believe that they saw something, and there are Mothman sightings to this day in and around O'Hare Airport in Chicago.
Mhm.
So are they seeing something? Yeah. What is it? I don't
Genetically
know.
modified, maybe?
I know according to the Cherokee,
Mhm.
an owl is an omen of death. And they have described Mothman being very owl-like, like a humanoid owl. That makes me wonder if it's some sort of death omen.
Interesting.
I think he's interdimensional, honestly.
Okay.
I think the Mothman is something that can pop in and out of this place and ultra terrestrial, as we like to call him. So I don't think he's the one that collapsed the bridge, though. I think there's another guy involved in that, but I'm not allowed to say. No, I'm joking. It's a joke we have. So
Ashley Hilt says, I thought you were going to say the Bigfoot loved the donuts.
he probably does, actually.
Funny thing about that, we went for my wife and I and my boys, and I think her parents were with us. We went for a drive, and I drove them through the old Joe Bald campground. It's an abandoned campground. You can't camp there. There's a public access area where you can go and fish, but you can't stay in the campground, especially after dark. Though Stone County deputies will come down and run you out. But we drove through it during the day, and one of the picnic tables that set back in the woods, it's all overgrown. I mean, it's just completely reclaimed, but some of the old concrete picnic tables are still there. And there was a little driveway that kind of led up to it. And I saw something on this picnic table. I'm like, hang on a second. And I pulled in and drove up there. And there was a completely full box of Krispy Kreme donuts. You could see them through the lid, just sitting there on that table. Nobody around. We were the only one in the park, and there was a brand new, completely full box of donuts sitting on that table. Why they were there, I don't know. I didn't get out and touch them. I'm like, would you look at that? Let's get out of here.
Wise move. Very wise move.
Yeah, I was going to say, now, do you guys believe in the whole gifting? I hear people do that quite a bit with Dogmen to Sasquatch. Is that a good thing to do? Or
there are people that do that do gifting, and I think it's a mistake. Now there are people that have had good mixed results with it, but like for example, people that feed black bears. There are people here in Missouri that will put food out like on their deck for black bears. The first time you don't, they will come in the house, destroy it, looking for food. You do not want a wild animal to associate you with food, because when you stop feeding them, they tend to get pissed off. So I would never gift something that I don't know what it is, especially a wild animal. Because the one time let's say you did it out in the middle of nowhere, you've got this stump in the middle of the woods that you backpack in and you leave gifts on. What if you pop in out there and you didn't bring any food with you, and now they're pissed off because you didn't do anything? Or God forbid, some other poor schmuck is hiking through that exact same section and doesn't have any food with him, and they're like, hey, he didn't pay the tribute.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna gift them, don't gift them food. Gift them like marbles and stuff like that, little trinkets,
Oh,
but not
okay.
food. Don't get them to rely on you for food.
My son and I, well, we noticed last summer. And I've got them somewhere. I don't know exactly where they are. I can get them quickly, but I kept finding these like shiny stones, like polished, just like polished glass stones, nothing valuable. Like, God, I wish it was gemstones, but like polished glass stones, little shiny stones, next to my front porch, and I kept finding them. I mean, the first time I saw one, I thought, okay, it's weird, and I picked it up and I put it up on the little ledge around my porch, and then like a day or two later, there were a couple more, and then they kept showing up. And so I finally asked my son, I'm like, where the hell are these coming from? I had quite a few of them in an old milk bottle. And he's like, oh, I know where those are coming from. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, every morning I go out and put out bread for the crows.
Oh.
So the crows would bring shiny gifts to us, which I thought was neat, but they don't come around anymore. I don't know why. I think it has something to do with the people that moved in next door.
Wow.
But we haven't seen them in the neighborhood in months, but he would put bread out for them and they'd leave us shiny rocks.
Yeah, they like to gift back. Crows will do that. It's really
very intelligent birds.
I didn't know that. I know they're the lovebirds too, right? They're one with the other bird for life. Is that true?
Yeah, they mate for life.
Yep.
Oh, mate for life. Okay. Yeah. I made the dumbass mistake of where I go researching. It's Sasquatch country up in Shaver Lake, and I took out a bag of apples because I've heard of encounters. Hey, if you want to be gifting them, maybe they'll reward you. So I
don't give them food. Never give them food chain. Just give them trinkets like marbles, things like that.
Well, this was like about 2 months ago when I was barely getting out in the field and still learning a lot. And hey, apples, Granny Smith, okay. Time in a tree 10 feet up.
That's what I did a long time ago too when I was trying to gift my Dogmen. So.
Oh, really? No, I've heard people gifting Dogmen, donuts. That's another one I've heard. Jerky.
Right.
Something that you're not supposed to do, obviously.
Yeah.
No, not a smart idea.
Okay, well, I'll try that. I'm trying to have that sighting or at least an encounter. I know people don't go seek them out.
And it's not just cryptids either. It's just dangerous in general to feed wild animals.
Yeah.
Even
especially intelligent ones. Because, if in some of the cases I've heard people say that Bigfoot followed them home. I've heard multiple accounts where they left like food out for them, out while they were camping, and then had them show up in their backyard like a week later. So if they're capable of tracking you over distance, the last thing you want to do is have 1,000-pound angry primate showing up on your back door going, "Where's the jerky?"
I've been trying to get my photo now, taking pictures. Hey, DA, Ryan, what do you guys think?
Give me my Jack's link.
Think you're in trouble, Shane? Run.
Take the wife and the son. We're out of here.
Messing with Sasquatch. Sasquatch decides to mess back.
Oh boy, bad news right there, man.
Punches that guy and he goes flying 30 yards. That was the best commercial.
I love those commercials.
Those commercials are great.
So what do you guys think? You guys want to keep going? I know we're at the almost hour and a half mark.
Sure.
I'm just trying to name off different cryptids off the top of my head. I think, Ryan, you touched on the devil monkey. So what is that? Is that pretty much a variant of a Sasquatch?
I think it could be. They're very baboon-like, but they're smaller. They're usually about 4 feet tall, but they're really, really aggressive. I mean, these things are known to raid farms and kill chickens from the chicken coop, attack horses and attack cows, kill pets. They're very savage. I don't know why they're so angry, but they're angry little gnomes pretty much.
Yeah.
Look at baboons in the wild.
Yeah.
In Africa, baboons have been known to attack villages. I mean, they're very aggressive and very strong. So if they're anything even remotely baboon-like, or they actually could be baboons that escaped from an enclosure.
Mistaken identity.
Got out of a government experiment program, something like that. Well, we know for a fact that when the hurricane hit Florida, all kinds of species of reptiles and primates got released from some of these like zoos and things like that. So we know a lot of that stuff did get released into the wild. So, and look at the state of Florida. It is the perfect breeding ground for damn near any animal you want to throw in there. So if say they had an exhibit with a half a dozen baboons and they got loose in the Everglades, guess what? They're going to be fruitful and multiply because it's the perfect environment. There's plenty of food. It's warm enough. They're not going to have to worry about surviving the winter. And they're smart enough to stay off the ground so the alligators won't get them.
That's true. That's very true.
Now, is the devil monkey just in a certain region, or is that there's sightings all over the United States?
I've heard of sightings in California and on the East Coast, but I really haven't heard that many devil monkey sightings.
Oh, I'll have to look
I've heard
into
of
that.
some in Arizona. There's a lot in Arizona and Alaska too.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, if you've got links to those encounters, I'd like to check them out.
I will send them your way.
Send them over to William Nighthawk. He is really wanting to dig into the devil monkeys.
Okay. Yeah.
So he's asking anybody that knows him that does any kind of research if they run across any devil monkey stories to send them to him.
Oh, I'll have to call him tomorrow then. Let him know about the guy in Arizona then.
Yeah, he would love that.
Definitely.
I didn't even know devil monkeys existed until I think Ryan, you mentioned it in an interview. Was that with William, or you did it with Three Beards yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's where I heard it. I was like, devil monkey, and then I started looking it up a little bit. Is it a cryptid or is it a mistaken identity of a baboon? I don't know.
Now it's a cryptid.
Is it cryptid? Okay.
Yeah,
Well, by definition of the word cryptid, unknown animal, it falls into the definition of cryptid until we're able to identify what it is. So could it be some mutant strain? Maybe. Could it be a cryptid in a category all of itself, or could it possibly be escaped baboons? We don't know. But we do know they're aggressive and that people don't have friendly encounters with them. It's not like some guy walks out on his porch and goes, "Oh, there's a little baboon thing. Hey, how you doing, buddy?" It's none of that. It's like they've attacked cars, they've chased people. They're not friendly.
No, not at all.
Interesting. Well, yeah, that's the thing. I never really heard about them, and like you said, DA, it could be any of those. And like the snow leopard, for example, was a myth until it was actually proven to be an animal. So.
Same thing with the billy ape. The legend of the killer ape existed in Africa for a long time, and Western science is like, "Oh no, that couldn't possibly exist." And until National Geographic caught it on a trail cam, and like, "Oh, yes, I guess it does exist. I get to name it."
National Geographic has to be the one.
Wow. The billy ape is just like a super aggressive species of chimp. They're close to human size, like 5-6 feet tall. They walk on their hind legs for the most part, and they've been known to make war on other clans, especially chimps. And the natives refer to them as lion killers.
Yep.
But they will use clubs and crude spears and kill lions. So yeah, the billy ape was a cryptid until somewhere around the year 2000 when National Geographic got footage of it, and they weren't even out looking for them. They were just looking for these weird nests that people were saying were in the area. And they put up these trail cams, and one of the trail cams just gets this footage of this one walking up, looking at the cam like, "What the hell is that?" and they're like, "Holy crap, it does exist."
There it is.
It's like an aggressive, larger version of an eastern chimpanzee.
Yeah.
It looks like a chimp, and it's about the size of a mid-sized gorilla. I mean, it's big.
Yeah. Pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I guess there's really not a whole lot about the devil monkey. I need to go actually look more into it like you guys were saying. But next cryptid I was wanting to ask you guys about, I know it's a personal favorite for Ryan, the skinwalkers.
Ooh, the Inaraushi.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I don't know if they would qualify as a cryptid.
No.
I think
More
because they started out as a person. And according to Navajo tradition, they were a shaman or a medicine man or medicine woman, it could be either, that basically went as dark as you could possibly go. They did something so foul, it basically put a stain on their soul. Like murdered a family member or murdered a child or something like that. And in exchange for this darkening of the soul, they gain this ability to shape change. And I don't really think they fall into the category of cryptid. They're definitely something paranormal, almost demonic, because of their power is just pure evil.
Yeah, Ryan, I know this is like, when I think of skinwalkers, and I want to talk to BA, and I want to talk to Ryan, and even William Nighthawk, and I didn't know he was around.
What do you think?
They're definitely not cryptids. Definitely not. I mean, they do start as men or women, and they actually have to take a very decisive path. And they do have to sacrifice a family member or even commit incest with a family member to become initiated into this. Yeah. So they have to become initiated into this coven. This magical group, and then they have to do a lot more stuff before they're actually getting that Alushi. They actually have to practice certain ceremonies, like they have to wear their war paint. They absolutely have to wear the body war paint. They have to wear their
dark magic.
Right. So they have to wear their beads and everything and practice very exact ceremonies in order to gather this dark magic to become a skinwalker.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yep. So no, they wouldn't
Now-
really be considered cryptids.
Not cryptid. Now, would you consider? Well, this would fall under the same category as, I guess you could say, paranormal. With the skinwalkers are the Wendigo.
No.
I learned
no.
something yesterday from Ryan on his interview with the Three Beards podcast that I always thought the Wendigos had the antlers, but that was all just people putting their own perspective on it.
I think
more like
the
a rake.
creature that people refer to as the rake, I think it's
Yeah,
a type
rake.
of Wendigo.
Yeah.
And of course we've got a condition known as Wendigo psychosis. There was a guy on a bus in Canada just went nuts and started eating and killed and started eating a guy on the bus, and they abandoned the bus, and the SWAT team ended up finally going in and getting the guy. And when they took him down, he had strips of flesh that he'd cut off of the guy that he'd been eating in his pockets, and there's they have no explanation why he did it. He was institutionalized. I hear he's out now, supposedly cured, but it may be just a ticking time bomb until he decides to eat somebody else.
Yeah.
And
Well, there's a
of course,
problem, though. There's a problem, DA, with Wendigo psychosis. The psychosis doesn't change your body. The
Correct.
Wendigo, when you're transforming, says it changes your body. Like your whole visage changes from what you are to represent the Wendigo.
I think the Wendigo has the ability to possess people, much like a demon. But I think when it finds a host and it stays, I think that's when the changes start happening, because they describe them as being extremely gaunt, like bloody mouths and blackened teeth where they've chewed their own lips off.
And their fingertips.
Fingertips are almost skeletal. The ones that have the antlers, I think that's more like a dark shamanic mask. I actually heard encounters in Canada of a Gugwee that was wearing one, and they believed it was a shaman, that it was wearing the skull of an elk. And I actually used that in a book. I described one of them that way.
Right. Well, that whole misconception, though, that came from Algernon Blackwood's novel. When he drew the Wendigo, he drew it with antlers. And what he was actually trying to do is Wendigo are known to actually get debris stuck to them, like branches and twigs. So he might have seen one and he thought, oh, it's antlers, but it was actually branches. So they weren't elk horns, they were branches from a tree.
Right.
And the whole staghead thing, that actually comes from Norse mythology. Not the Algonquin, the Cree, or the Ojibwe. That's Norse, so that's nothing to do with the Wendigo.
Well, I think to a certain extent, I think that there is Norse influence in some of the northern tribes, like the Lakota. Like we know for a fact that this, you guys can Google this if you want. If you've never heard of the Heavener runestone, there is a Viking runestone that was carbon dated to the 8th century. That's about 600 years before Columbus set sail. A Viking runestone in Heavener, Oklahoma.
Right.
What?
The Vikings made it that far inland.
Wow.
Pretty
That's
interesting.
in the middle of the country, too. Yeah.
And I was reading an article a while back that said that linguists who were doing studies of Native American languages found words in the Sioux vocabulary that were Norse in origin.
There was so much to learn on all this. This is interesting stuff that you guys are bringing
The
up.
Vikings
Like
made
I
it
say,
much farther inland than we previously thought.
Yeah, I thought they landed in Canada, the tips of Nova Scotia, but I didn't
Well,
realize
the cool thing about that is Leif Erikson's Encounters of Vinland. They talked about being attacked by what they referred to as the Skraelings. And at first we thought the Skraelings were the Viking word for the Native Americans. But the descriptions of the Skraelings, and these are from the Vikings, who were considered, there was the guys with the beards, and they were considered big because they were bigger than most people, most people they encountered. They weren't like 8 feet tall giants, but they were big men compared to a lot of the other civilizations they encountered. And the average height of most Native Americans around that time was about 5'4" or 5'5". So these guys would have dwarfed the Native Americans in the area, yet they described the Skraelings as being huge and hairy.
Yep.
interesting.
So it's very possible that Leif Erikson's settlement in Vinland was ended because of Bigfoot attacks.
600 years before Columbus. That's just, wow.
Well, it's like the Patagonian giant, too. I mean, when they they landed on Patagonia, there was giants that actually met them on the shore and drove them off. So,
and then you've got the giants of Lovelock Cave, and those bones were put on display in Nevada for years until the Smithsonian said, "Hey, we'd like to study those," and then they were gone.
yeah.
But the museum that had the bones still has the receipt that was they signed it over to the museum to the Smithsonian. Yet the Smithsonian claims they never received it and never took the bones.
Shady.
Yeah. They were confirmed gigantic humanoid bones with red hair, which is remarkably similar to the giants of Kandahar descriptions.
Yep.
That's another thing I always wanted to look up. What actually happened with the giants of Kandahar? I haven't really looked it up. I know a buddy of mine sent me a link, and I was going to go watch it, but
the story goes that a special forces unit went missing. They stopped reporting in, and they were in a certain area that they know that they were expecting contact with insurgents, and this entire unit just disappeared. So they sent another team, an alpha team, looking for them. So this alpha team finds their last point of check-in, and they start tracking them from there, and they start finding discarded equipment like helmets and stuff like that. And they're like, "What? Why are they dropping their gear?" And they follow it up a mountainside, and they start finding pieces, not pieces of equipment, pieces of people,
like an arm,
like arms and stuff like that, and bones outside this cave. But it was a large cave, and when they approached the cave, this creature came out and is described as being a very large human-like creature. I think it was, I want to say like 10 feet tall, if I remember correctly. It was big, covered with not like Bigfoot red hair, but had long red hair, red beard, and had like a crude loincloth and a massive spear. Well, before they react, it skewers a guy and kills him. So the special forces unit opens up on this thing, and they start dumping everything they've got into it, including like saws, squad automatic weapons. And it still manages to kill a couple more of them before they take it down. They call in, radio it in, they send a chopper, take the body, and when they get back to base, they're told, "Shut up, this never happened. You will not report on this." But word of it leaked out. And I've heard 2 or 3 people say, I know people that were there and I know what happened, and I've heard other people go, "Oh, I know for a fact it didn't happen." I can't say for sure whether it really happened or not. But I can say that the stories that I've heard told of the sighting, and it's allegedly happened more than once. The stories are so consistent. I think there's truth to it because the stories don't change.
Yeah, I think there's some truth to it. I'm not sure if the existence of the giant is true, but there's some kernel of truth there.
I agree.
Definitely.
And this happened
in Afghanistan. There was a species of Bigfoot they call the Barmanu.
Oh, Barmanu. Okay. See, I didn't know that. Now, when did the incident with the Beast of Kandahar happen? I know obviously it had to have been during Operation Freedom or Iraqi Freedom, right?
Enduring Freedom is in Afghanistan.
Afghanistan. Okay.
I think it's happened sometime in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Sometime between 2002 and 2007.
Interesting. Wow.
Yep.
Was there any other topics you guys want to? I mean, I'm trying to think of different cryptids. I only know like 7 or 8 off the top of my head. So
you'll learn.
I know. I'm learning so much.
There's a ton of them.
Oh yeah, I know internationally there's a lot too. And is it Kenny Irish? I think he just released a book about international cryptids. I think I have to look into it. I saw it pop up on my feed, and I was like, oh, I got to check that out. International, that would be a fun one. But yeah, I was going to ask you guys, what is the one cryptid you guys research the most in?
Oh God,
I spent most of my time on Bigfoot and Dogman.
I'm gonna have to say the one that I spend the most time on is probably like Gugwee, Dogman, and you can't really count Yinetalushi or Wendigo as cryptids. So, but those are definitely my specialties.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Now there is a type of Bigfoot that they refer to as a Wendigo, but I think it's for want of a better description, it seems almost like a hybrid between the Genoskwa and the Gugwee.
For the most part,
very aggressive. And cannibalistic.
It can be. I mean, Wendigo is it's from the Micmac. It's from the people back east, and like in Maine, Wendigo is a name for Bigfoot.
Oh, really?
But when you get around the Great Lakes area, and you start running into the tribes in that area, the Wendigo, the Wendiga, the Wintika. There's like a dozen different words, and they talk more about this this spirit that possesses people and turns them into cannibals.
Yeah.
So, there's the two versions of what people consider the Wendigo. And I don't know that I would consider like you were saying up in Maine and that area, I don't know if I would consider that a true Wendigo.
No,
I think like it's a localized name for a type of Bigfoot. But
I think it got that name because it was eating people.
Oh yeah, I think
And
so.
I think the tribes gave it it almost became like a blanket term. Anything that ate a human being was considered Wendigo or Wittigo or Wendiga, anything like that. So I think that's how it got that name.
And I think it's creatures like that, like Dogman, like Bigfoot, these aggressive creatures that have been known to hunt and kill people. And because these creatures have been seen all over the world, I think that they're the basis for what they refer to as the uncanny valley theory. Uncanny valley theory is, in a nutshell, basically they did a psychological study of people all across the globe from different walks of life, from different parts of the world, and they discovered that pretty much all of us, deep down in our psyche, are afraid of things that look almost like us in the dark. Yep. And I think dating back to the time before our ancestors could make fire, I think these things hunted us. And I think we have this genetic memory passed down to know that things that look similar to us in the dark are there to eat us.
Yep.
Oh, creepy.
It's called the uncanny valley theory. And it's really worth reading.
Memory. It's genetic memory, yeah.
I've got so much to research and read on all this stuff like you guys have mentioned. Like I say, I'm like a kid in a candy store getting all this wealth of knowledge. So no, it's totally awesome.
We're overloading you right now.
Oh no, my brain's going like, oh my gosh, we got so much to read in on, and no, it's incredible. It really is. And like I say, I appreciate it, you guys. Cryptid, I wanted to ask about. I don't know if it's really considered cryptid or 5 minutes of fame. What do you guys think of the Fresno crawler? It's about Fresno's 2 hours north of where I'm at. Do you think that's
the walking pants?
Oh yeah. Do you think it's the walking?
I don't really know much about it. I haven't really researched that one.
Okay.
It's one of those ones I've heard of in passing, but I really didn't dig in much into it.
It seems like a hoax to me. I mean, it was a one and done. So when it's a one and done, you get to kind of wonder what's going on there. But I mean, maybe it's possible. I've heard the theory that there's some kind of alien.
Yeah, it's
Is
just
that
like a
possible?
white head with two eyes and it's moving on
they're
two
just
legs.
walking around like that. Yeah,
It was weird. Yeah, and then it almost reminds me, if it's like you said, the 5 minutes of fame, like the Amarillo Dogman, Crash Bandicoot looking thing.
That proved to be fake.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So it was okay.
Yeah, they basically admitted it was a publicity stunt.
I thought so. That's what I was saying for a long time. It was a publicity stunt. So
it got them the attention they wanted.
Yeah,
it certainly did. But, the unfortunate thing is people will think something like that is just a publicity stunt, and really all it does is adds fuel to the fire of people that say cryptids aren't real.
Yeah,
this is hoax. This is hoax. This is hoaxed. All of it's hoaxed. No, not all of it's hoaxed. And one thing I like to point out to people is, as a cop, people have gone to prison for life on eyewitness testimony. Yet, eyewitness testimony from credible sources, from people that we know are not pulling our leg, is completely dismissed as hearsay.
Interesting.
They don't want to believe monsters are real. That's why.
Yeah, it's a total paradigm shift.
Is that why you think they get the weird names or the funny names so people laugh at you, like Bigfoot, the Dogman, the Mothman?
Yeah.
They're named that way?
Yeah.
And I think these creatures, the sightings of these creatures, explains why if you look at any plat map of any part of the United States, you'll find like Devil's Den State Park or Devil's Kitchen, or they're all over the place. There's one up in near Warrensburg, Missouri, that they call Monkey Mountain. There's all kinds of places like that all over the United States
Ape
that
Canyon.
are named Ape Canyon, that are named like Wild Man Ridge or things like that. And there's a reason they named these things. It's not like somebody walked up to find a spring, and there was a place called Devil's Spring here in Missouri, and it's a beautiful spring, fresh water coming right out of the ground. I'm pretty sure the first guy walked up to that and went, "This is beautiful. This setting is idyllic. Fresh water coming out. I think I'm going to call it Devil's Spring." That makes no sense. Something had to happen for them to go, "That's Devil's Spring. Stay the hell away from it."
Yeah. Ow.
Makes sense.
Yeah, no, it really does.
Well, here's my crazy tin. If I had tinfoil in here, I'd go ahead and line my hat for you. But this is my this is my jump out there a little bit, and you have to kind of bear with me a little bit. Now, one of the earliest known Bigfoot encounter stories that we know for a fact is in print is the Bauman incident that was recorded by Teddy Roosevelt in his book, The Wilderness Hunter.
Yep.
The level of detail that Teddy puts into this story far exceeds anything any hillbilly, backwoods hunter that I've ever known has given. You can get them to give you a story, but they'll go, oh yeah, I saw this crazy thing, and I was tearing my traps up, and I just got out of there. That's about the story you're going to get out of most backwoods people. The level of detail in this story leads me to believe, and there are a lot of people that agree with me, that Teddy Roosevelt was Bauman. But he changed the name because he had political aspirations. He didn't want people going, oh, you think there's a monster out there in the woods, and it hurt his political chances. So if we take that as a given that Bauman was Teddy Roosevelt, okay, and Teddy Roosevelt just changed the name because he didn't want to destroy his credibility or his future political career. If we can accept that as the premise, then what I'm about to tell you opens up a much bigger can of worms. Uh-oh. Flash forward, President Teddy Roosevelt, okay? What is one of the first things he does as president? He established the national park system and cordoned off millions of acres that we still don't have access to.
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember you mentioning that to me a while back, DA.
Yep. He knew there was something going on.
If you accept that Teddy Roosevelt more than likely was Bauman, the national parks suddenly become very interesting on why he did that.
Yep.
Now, is there a location where the sighting happened?
They say from the descriptions we know it had to be somewhere in either northern Idaho or Montana,
right
up near the Canadian border. We know it happened in a valley up there, but there's been a lot of speculation on where it could have possibly been. But he doesn't give you enough lead-in detail to say it's somewhere up in the mountains.
Okay.
It was this pass that the natives told them don't go up there, and they saw lots of beaver sign and they went anyway. And one of the two trappers wound up getting killed.
Yeah.
So it's one of the earliest known Bigfoot stories in print, and one of the earliest records of a Bigfoot attack. Wow. So, and Teddy, if you can accept the premise that the evidence kind of strongly suggests that Teddy Roosevelt was Bauman, that explains why he cordoned off millions of acres to keep people out of it.
Yep.
Yeah, I totally
thought that for a long time.
Yeah, that's my tinfoil hat theory for the night.
Well, thank you, DA. I appreciate that.
It's a great theory, DA.
Yes,
I think it holds a lot of water if you follow my logic on him being Bauman. I think
it absolutely does. Yeah,
it really does. Yeah,
because this is a guy that was fearless. I mean, he hunted gorillas. I mean, he was a big game hunter. He hunted everything he could hunt. I mean, man killed a Cape buffalo, possibly one of the most dangerous animals you could hunt. The dude had no fear of the wild, but he didn't want anybody to know about the Bauman incident, that it was possibly him.
Yeah.
So I think what he saw, what happened up there, scared him so bad, he wanted to make sure nobody went into those backwoods area. And I think it's very likely that valley is probably part of a national park. And if you look at the national parks in the northern Idaho, right along the Canadian border, Idaho, Montana, I think it might possibly be Glacier.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's somewhere in Glacier National Park.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Okay.
And there are parts of Glacier that are so freaking remote, the only way you're going to get in there is days and days of backpacking or parachute in. It's just so dense. There are parts of that park people probably have never been in.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I never knew
There's
that.
literally no way to get to it. It's just, you would have to walk in, go in by horseback, have somebody in a float plane drop you off at a nearby lake. Just some of that area is so inaccessible that it's perfect habitat.
Mm-hmm.
Be an awesome research area just to go in. I mean, obviously go with some other people,
Right. I was just about to say that. Don't ever go alone. No, but
yeah.
And to compound on the tinfoil hat theory, you take the national parks as being a possible place where Teddy Roosevelt set aside preserves for these cryptids. Then you overlap that with the map of the missing 411, and
the stars align.
Yeah,
that's what I think. I mean, my theory on it. Like I say, I keep an open mind to it all, but like
that's
you guys
what you gotta do.
you guys have made key points on all of it.
And again, I'm not saying that every person in the missing 411 was carried off by Bigfoot, Dogman, Wendigo. I'm not saying that. You know, some of them just vanished and didn't leave a trace. Now, I do believe there's a percentage of people that go missing, even in urban areas, that are probably being taken by cryptids, because Bigfoot and Dogman have been seen in city limits.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason I think that is, according to NAMI, over 300,000 people are reported missing every year.
Wow.
And that's not even counting homeless populations that we don't keep track of.
Interesting. People just going off the grid, huh?
If a homeless person went to the police department here in town and said, "Hey, my buddy Larry's gone," the Springfield police would probably take his report and file it as a missing person, but probably not put any real effort into it, because they're going to go, "This is an itinerant population. He probably just moved on."
Yeah.
It's not going to get really investigated. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that's probably what would happen.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
And you've got places that are large enough homeless populations near these rural areas or wooded areas. I mean, there was the report out of Florida that a homeless guy was chased out of his tent by a Dogman.
Yeah.
And, so you start looking at that possibility that maybe, and we were discussing about illegals coming across the border also going missing. You've got a large chunk of people that can go missing that nobody will notice. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying it's a good thing. It's actually horrible. There's so many people, especially homeless vets, and that's something that's very near and dear to my heart. And I'm a big supporter of the 22 a Day Foundation and the Valhalla Project to reach out and help and end veteran suicide. But there are a lot of homeless vets out there that just have fallen through the cracks. And it's not just vets. There's so many people out there, and we don't, as a society, we don't even track those people. I mean, how often have you been driving through town and seen some guy holding a sign, and maybe you'll roll down the window, give him a handful of change, or maybe you won't even make eye contact and just keep driving. The next day the guy's gone, you don't think anything of it.
Yeah, you really don't. That's sad. Very sad.
So we could have far more people going missing than we realize.
Now, do you think that the attacks are now on the rise? Like now, I guess you could say that they're creeping more into the cities. Like I guess it was a missing 411, or the little boy in was it Kentucky or Tennessee, Corey Godsey, I think his name was. He was taken up 400 feet up a steep ravine. Then you've got the wild dog attacks that seem to be on the rise in Kentucky and Tennessee. Like in Crook County, Tennessee, there were two people killed like within feet of each other, a couple of months apart, and they said, "Oh, it was wild dogs." That whole incident is just wrong. They checked the dogs that they claimed were responsible. This guy had pit bulls, and they found a little bit of blood on one of the dog's paws, but no human remains or no human meat in these dogs' stomachs. So it wasn't the dogs. Wow. And if you lived in a neighborhood on the edge of town and wild dogs killed somebody in or near your house, and you've got kids, don't you think you probably would have been either putting out poison or setting out with a rifle looking for these wild dogs because you don't want them to pick your kid off when they get off the bus? Yeah, right. Nobody. 2 months later, another person, a grown adult, gets taken down and mostly devoured, and nobody heard it. Yeah, that's what gets me. The wild dogs. Tombstone said wild dogs. Yeah,
wild dog.
Yeah, wild dogs.
You gotta quote that.
We've dealt with wild dogs when I lived on the farm. The people dump a dog out.
I know they do exist.
Wild dogs do exist, but it's.
Be right back down on the grab more coffee.
Yeah, go ahead.
You just don't hear about them attacking people very often. Pets, outdoor pets, yes. Livestock, wild animals, yeah. But it's rare that you see something like that go after a person. And coyotes have been known to kill people, but it's got to be a person that's already hurt, like somebody that tripped and broke their leg.
They go for the
coyotes are generally pretty much afraid of us.
Yeah, I don't know, DA. In Arizona, where I live, man, the coyotes are a bunch of jerks, dude. They will chase you down. They've chased me before.
Yeah, but
Really?
the thing is when I lived down in New Mexico, whenever we went if we went walking, somebody always had a firearm, and if something like that came up, you put a bullet in one, the rest of them will run.
Yeah.
Yeah. Injured dog.
Yeah.
They can be dangerous. Coyotes can be very, very dangerous, man.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm not saying wild
Especially a pack
dogs.
of them.
I'm not saying it's impossible that wild dogs have attacked people. Not saying that at all. I'm just saying it's really weird that there's so many of them in Kentucky and Tennessee. It makes it sound like there's just dozens of packs of wild dogs running around mauling people.
Well, here's something to think about, though, DA. When we talk about cover-ups, maybe they are covering up wild dogs, but they also covered up owls existing in a forest at one time because they wanted to preserve the owls. So they covered up the existence of these owls in this forest.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
And I think if the missing 411 cases are ever proven to be cryptid, or even let's say 10% of them were cryptid related, that means there are, in fact, cryptids taking people. And I think that's the reason the government's never going to go, yes, here they are. Here's the evidence. They exist. I don't think they're going to do that, because if they ever admitted that they've known about these creatures for years, that makes them culpable in so many of those disappearances.
They look bad.
Yeah.
There is one, though. There is one.
They don't need help to look bad.
Right. There is one missing 411 that I think is cryptid related, though. Dennis Martin.
I agree. Because it wasn't very far away. People reported seeing a large, hairy man carrying what they thought was a child, and the Parks Department didn't even investigate it.
Right.
Ryan, can you go into that a little bit? I've never heard of that one.
Sure. Dennis Martin was actually, he was with his father and his uncle and his cousin. He and his cousin were playing hide and go seek and just popping in and out of bushes. Well, young Dennis, he went to go hide in the bush. He never came back out. And his father knew him very well that, he's not going to just keep hiding like that. He was a very disciplined boy. So when his father looked for him, he couldn't find him. And his father ran, I think it was like 7-8 miles in one direction, thinking he'd find his son, but the son was gone. Okay. And in the meantime, another family was hiking just a few miles away. They saw this huge figure, this tall figure in fur, as they put it, in fur. Now, they didn't say hairy or furry. They said in fur, carrying something on his shoulder. And they think they saw this thing carrying Dennis Martin. And so they called in all these different law enforcement fields, like, the police, the military.
Even the military got involved,
Yeah, the CIA. And the funny thing is, though, none of the branches were contacting each other and working together. They were all working separately. And the military was only searching at night. So why were they only searching at night, Shane? What was it they didn't want to see during the day, where they were looking only at night, and they kept his father out of the loop completely?
Wouldn't let him help search.
Right. And then the FBI agent that was in charge of this, he mysteriously killed himself years later.
Was it something you think he saw, or just he knew?
When he killed himself, he had Dennis Martin's file.
Wow.
Yeah, I think he was told to keep quiet, and I think it eventually drove him to it.
Yeah.
Because he knew what happened to that kid, and he couldn't tell him.
Wow. That blows my mind.
Just a handful of years ago, I want to say it was in 2018, 2019, the little kid, it was in January or February, one of the coldest months of the year in North Carolina, disappeared from his home, and they found him like 3 days later, and he said that a bear had kept him warm and taken care of him. That's not bear behavior.
Yeah.
That is not bear behavior at all. One, bears are hibernating in the cold winter. If a bear wakes up from hibernation early, it's going to be hungry. A small child is going to be a snack. If that had been a bear, it would have eaten that kid. They've never allowed the kid to be interviewed, but the public story is that the kid said it was a bear. Now, if you're a little kid and you don't have a knowledge of like Bigfoot or any of these cryptid stories, and something big and hairy in the woods protects you, what's the first thing you're going to say?
Bear.
It's a bear.
So, yeah, if it can stand on two legs,
I mean, most children that young, their only vision of a bear, that the only bear they've probably ever seen is a teddy bear.
Exactly.
And teddy bears anatomically are very human-like.
Very human-like.
What do they call that? Anthropomorphized?
Yeah. Anthropomorphic.
Yeah. So this kid sees something that looks like a gigantic version of its teddy bear. So I think that kid was abducted by a Bigfoot, and they found the kid 3 days later. It had been keeping the kid warm, had been giving him berries to eat.
He was fattening him up.
That is not bear behavior.
No.
Not at all. And hopefully when he's older, maybe he'll talk about it. It's like Ryan was mentioning, it seems like the younger generations now, it's keeping it going, but are getting more interested in the cryptid field and wanting to learn more about it. I thought that's pretty cool.
That kid will probably grow up with his own parents saying, "Remember that time that bear took care of you?" And as an adult, he'll be like, "Yeah, I don't really remember it. I was 3, but apparently I was taken care of by a bear." So I don't think we'll ever get the kid's story. The only thing we ever get is what they released. So, but I honestly think that kid was abducted by a Bigfoot.
On the other hand, DA, he could see a picture that strikes a memory in him when he's older. Go, oh, that's the bear I saw.
That's the bear.
Yeah.
He could see, the Patterson Gimlin footage and go, "Hey, that's not a bear."
Yeah, that wasn't a bear. Mom, Dad, you lied. It wasn't a bear.
Well, that's what carried me.
This is what took care of me. That's not a bear.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, hopefully that would be awesome. If that would.
Lenina Bryant says, "Didn't it show him how to drink water from a stream?" Yeah, I believe it did.
Yeah.
It also fed him berries, and that is not bear behavior.
Right.
Well, it was like February. I mean, January, February. So if the bear had come out of hibernation, it would have been hungry.
Oh yeah, it would have been in a very foul mood too.
And bears require a lot of protein when they come out of hibernation.
Yep, they're downright jerks, man. They're downright jerks when they come out of hibernation.
That's the one time that a black bear will come after a human because it needs the food.
Yep.
The protein, right? Like what we were talking about earlier.
Yep. The fat content.
Yes, I don't for a second believe that kid was taken care of by a bear.
No.
Now, is there any other reports of, like, I guess you could say missing 411s in that general area that other kids were abducted or people were abducted?
If you look at the missing 411 cluster maps, there is a cluster of disappearances in that area.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So
they're all. Well, that was in Appalachian territory, wasn't it? Up near the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah.
There are. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many missing persons along the Appalachian Trail.
Well, another connection to make is a lot of the kids that disappear with missing 411, they're disabled kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it was found out that Dennis Martin actually did have a mental disability.
Developmental disability. Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Some of those missing 411 cases, if you look at some of the ones, especially out in Yosemite, they might have a child with something, like a development, like on the spectrum, let's just say.
Right.
There was one case, and I can't remember the person's name. And Ryan, if you remember the name, just throw it in there. But the family was walking with their child, and the kid was 3 or 4, and the kid was walking on the trail. They were letting the kid walk in front of them. It went around the corner of a trail around a tree. They lost sight of the kid for like 3 seconds, rounded the corner, and he was gone.
Yeah, just poof. Yep. I don't remember the kid's name, though.
I don't remember it either. For the life of me, I can't think of it. But they found one of the kid's shoes miles away.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
You're going to tell me this essentially a toddler was able to traverse miles of mountainous territory.
Right.
Now, do they talk about this in the David Pilates missing 411?
Yeah, it's in.
I'm trying to recall them because I watched them. I'm just like, I don't recall that.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and rewatch it.
Yeah.
Look at the missing 411 books because there's a lot more cases in the books than he puts out on video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Read
That's
the
what I
books.
was going to need to do.
The books are a really good source. And my particular favorite of the missing 411 is the series he calls Missing 411 The Hunters, where experienced hunters just vanished without a trace.
Yep.
And that's in and of itself, that's unusual. But here's the thing. How many stories have you heard from hunters? And I know one personally, Anthony, my co-host, Anthony Canatella. Hunters who have literally had a Bigfoot in their crosshairs and didn't take the shot because they thought it was either too human or were concerned it was somebody in a costume. They said it looked too human. I didn't take the shot. My theory is the missing 411, the hunters took the shot.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yep.
What do you think about the whole mind speak with Dogmen and Sasquatch? Do you believe that's a true thing, or is that something more, I guess you could say, paranormal to them? Or
I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that. I think what we're hearing is we're hearing our inner monologue, our voice of reasoning. That's telling us to either, get out of there or do whatever. It's not these things telepathically communicating with us. They're not Jedi, okay?
That's what I figured.
So
I have heard quite a few stories from people I considered believable individuals that said they experienced mind speak. I have been in a lot of weird situations that didn't involve cryptids where that little voice in the back of my head said, "Get the hell out of here right now. You're
Yep.
in over your head. You are going to die if you keep going. Back out."
Right.
And I've had that happen to me as a cop. And those were bad situations. I mean, it wasn't somebody telepathically telling me to get the hell out of there. It was that primitive part of my brain, what I refer to as my lizard brain. That was lizard brain going, "You're going to die. Get out of here."
Yeah. That's what I think it is. I mean,
I
that's
I agree with Ryan. I think that is probably what it is. Now, can I say that for 100% certain? No.
Well, like you say, DA, it's all theory, and even Ryan
Yeah.
says that we're all just baits and theories. But I've heard that one multiple times from multiple interviews I've listened to, and people say they've talked to me and it was telling me put the gun down or I will kill you. And I don't know. I was like, I definitely.
I think that's our own brain, though. It's our brain thinking, if I take this shot, it's not going to hurt this thing. It's just going to turn around and kill me if I take this shot. It's our inner monologue. Everybody has
inner monologue. Yeah.
And in a dangerous situation or scary situation that we're not familiar with, it kicks in. We don't recognize it all the time, but it does kick in.
When I was a corrections officer, I dealt with an inmate one time, and he had a shank. In the safest environment in the world, where people think, the inmates are, they're locked up, they can't possibly be dangerous. They will find a way to kill you. There are no guns in there, and they will find a way to still kill you. Well, this guy had a shank and was threatening to stab somebody, and I went to the guy's cell, and I didn't say a word. I just stood there and waited for him to make a move, and he looked at me for a minute, and he put it down, and I cuffed him up and took the shank and walked him out and took him to the segregation unit. And later, when I went back to talk to him, I went back to read the report that I'd written and talk to him about the incident. I asked him, I'm like, what made you put the shank down? He said, there was something in your eyes said that if I came at you, you would kill me. I said, well, you were absolutely correct. I was already plotting ways to break your neck.
Wow.
I said, my move, if you came at me, was to try to deflect it with my body armor and snap your freaking neck. He's like, you'd have done it too. I said, yeah, there's no doubt in my mind I would have done it.
Yeah, especially
I made that decision when I went inside. My wife asked me the same when I graduated the academy, when I got my commission. She goes, what are you going to do if you're in a situation where you have to shoot somebody? How are you going to feel about that? I said, well, babe, I'm not one of those guys that's going to answer every situation with a gun. I am going to do everything in my power to de-escalate the situation and talk somebody out of it. And I never had to shoot somebody, thank God. I had to clear leather on people? Yes. But I've never had to actually, the only time I ever discharged my weapon was on the range. I've never had to fire at somebody. And I count myself lucky that I never had to. Yeah. But I made that switch. I made that decision long ago that if somebody pushes me to the point that I have to clear leather, at that point, I am no longer going to feel bad about what happens. That I've given them every opportunity to put the weapon down or de-escalate or turn and cuff up. That they have left me no other option but to use deadly force. Because that verbal judo, man, I could talk people down from the ledge. I was really good at it, and I taught a lot of young guys how to do that. But I'd made that switch in my head years before that if I'm at the point where I'm looking over the gun sights at them, I've exhausted all other options.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, DA, with that when the felon or the convict, how far was he from you? I know that the 21-foot rule.
We were both in the cell.
Oh, okay. So he
could have got me. I mean, but I was wearing a stab vest. So what I was going to do, my entire plan was, if he came at me, I was going to twist and try to take that on the side armor. And at the point he drove in, I was just going to grab his head
and pop it. Okay. I didn't mean
to
say convict. I meant to say inmate. I was thinking of the word.
I might have gotten stabbed, but there is no doubt in my military mind I would have ended that.
With snapping.
Yeah, I would have ended that situation. I might have had to go to the ER. I might have had to have surgery, but I was going to end that situation. I'd already decided that when I walked in the cell.
Yeah.
I knew exactly what I was going to do, and he told me. He said, "I saw it in your eyes." He said, "You weren't backing down. You weren't afraid of me. You were deadpan calm, and I knew if I came forward, you were going to end it."
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Well, yeah, you mentioned the wife earlier. I wanted to say, I know it's been a couple of days. I think I already told you, but happy 29th anniversary, brother.
Thank you.
That is awesome.
It was on the 10th. We actually met in 1992. So we've been together a long time, but married 29 years. Next year will be 30.
Wow, she's tolerating you, huh, DA?
Oh God, yeah. She's put up with a lot of crap over the years. And
My
as a
goodness.
cop, he was been on the receiving end of that phone call. Hey, Doug's in the hospital. You need to get to the ER. She's gotten that phone call a few times in my career.
Wow. That's a good wife right there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She put up with me being a cop, and now she puts up with my Bigfoot shenanigans, and
Hey.
yeah, she's a keeper. I
She's
think I'll keep her.
Until she gets tired of you.
Yeah, until she gets tired of me.
Man. Well, you guys, we're at the 2 hour and 9 minute mark. Do you guys want to keep going on, or
Up to you, brother. I'm down.
No, I've ran out of cryptids on what
I
can
gotta
think
drop
of.
off because I gotta take my dog out for a walk. Duke's been staring at me for the past 30 minutes.
Oh, no worries. Do you guys
So-
want to do a part 2 in the near future, and we can?
Sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, yeah.
absolutely, dude.
Yeah.
As my buddy Kerry says, I'm down like 4 flat tires.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
that'd be awesome. I know you guys got stuff to go do, and like I say, it's been a true honor to have you guys on, and I definitely want to have you on for a part 2 sometime in the near future. And
You got it, bro.
you guys
Whenever
are
you want.
awesome. Ryan, what you do with Monster Radio, and DA, what you do with DA
Monster
X
Radio
Machina.
rocks.
Big fan of both of you guys, brothers, and truly an honor to have both of you on. And thank you again so much.
It was my
Yeah,
pleasure,
brother.
brother.
Dude, you're doing good work too. I mean,
You really are, Shane. Keep
Thank
it
you,
up,
guys.
guys. Proud of you, man.
Thank you.
You've come a long way quickly. You're doing good stuff. You've got solid research. Just keep it up. You're doing a good job, brother.
Yeah,
Thank you,
you're on the
brother.
right path, man. You're on the right path for sure, bro. You keep it up, okay?
I will, and I definitely will reach out to you guys. Like I know I talk to you guys at least once or twice,
Okay.
every other day, or try in the comments or something on Facebook. But thank you
All right.
guys, and your words of encouragement make me want to go even farther out into those woods, and
That's what
hopefully I
we're
will
here
get that
for, man.
encounter. So
That's why we're here.
Be careful. It's one of the things I always say on my show, and I'll go ahead and throw it out there. If you're going out there, and this is for you and for anybody that's listening, if you're going out into a remote area, tell somebody where you're going.
Yes.
Tell them when you're supposed to be back. So if for some reason you can't, you get hurt and you don't have cell signal and you need help, somebody knows where to start looking from you.
Yep.
Looking for you. Take a med kit. Take something beyond Bactine and Band-Aids. Take something with maybe a splint or a tourniquet. Take a first aid kit and know how to use it. And take something to defend yourself. If you don't believe in firearms, take a stick, take some bear spray, take a knife, take a hatchet, take a broadsword. Take something that you can defend yourself, because you have the right to come home safely.
Yep.
And there are things out there that aren't cryptids that can and will hurt or kill you. And some of them are on 2 legs.
Yeah, human beings, man.
Some of the worst.
most violent creature in the world.
That's a
Right.
fact.
Well, you guys, it's been a true honor again. Like I say, thank you so much for coming on to our platform here at West Coast Dogman Project. It's been a true honor, you guys. You guys have a good evening.
You
too,
too,
brother.
man.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, man.
Bye.
You guys be good.
Thank you. You too, brother. Bye.